Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I call to order a meeting of the Havre Grace Mayor and City Council. The date is Monday, March 15th, 2021. The time is now 7 p.m. I will call the roll of the council members. Council President Glenn.
Here.
Councilmember Robertson.
Here.
Councilmember Zinner.
Here.
Councilmember Boyer.
Here.
Councilmember Ringsacker.
Here.
And Councilmember Martin.
Here.
With all council members present and accounted for, I'd like to ask everybody to join me for the Pledge of Allegiance and opening prayer. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America
and
to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. If I could kindly ask everyone to please remain standing as I call forward Pastor Lynn Humphreys Russ of Susquehanna Charge of the United Methodist Church. Pastor, thank you for joining us again. It's a pleasure to see you in the chambers. Thank you.
It is a pleasure to be here. Thank you. Would you please bow your heads and pray with me? Oh God, here we are again. We're calling to you as we always need to do. Tonight we're here to ask for your guidance, your grace, your courage, and your strength for the governing of our city. These council members need your inspiration as they work on the weighty matters before them. Help them to know you as they struggle in the midst of the challenges that today brings. We're here tonight as we reopen our life from the tragedy of this virus, from social upheaval, economic crises, and the many daily obstacles that our citizens find that prevent them from that pursuit of happiness enshrined in our Declaration of Independence. On the eve of St. Patrick's Day, as cold winter begins to sprout into the delights of spring, help these men and women of the Havre de Grace City Council to acknowledge the joys within the differences present in our community so that everyone will blossom fully. Help them to look beyond the problems to find solutions. May their unity with you be reflected in their unity together. Oh God, we see you in so many ways, seek you through so many differing paths, and call out to you using so many different names. Tonight, I pray to you in the mighty name of Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen.
Pastor Lynn, again, thank you for your words. I loved what you had to say. And it's always a pleasure to have you here. Don't be a stranger, and we hope to see you soon, okay?
Be a blessing.
Thank you. Have a wonderful evening.
Mr. Mayor.
Councilmember Ringsacker.
Mr. Mayor, Council, I'd like to, if I may, make an amendment to tonight's agenda and remove item 13A, ordinance 1049 concerning amendments of City Zoning Code 205-9 for second reading. We've decided to send this back to the Planning Commission for further review and hope to have it on the next agenda.
Council, I have a request by Councilmember Ringsacker to remove item 13A from the agenda. Are there any objections to put this to a vote, or is this a friendly amendment? Friendly? Okay. Councilmember Ringsacker, 13A will be removed by consent of the council.
Thank you so much. And that discussion with the Planning Commission will be handled on next Monday on the 22nd. Thank you.
Okay. Anything else, Council President?
We're good.
We're good? Okay. Okay, we're going to go to item 5, approval of the minutes from the City Council meeting of March 1st, 2021. Council, to have a motion to approve? A motion by Councilmember Zinner.
Second.
Seconded by Councilmember Boyer. Questions or comments on the minutes? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say nay. Council meeting minutes of March 1st, 2021 carries 6-0 in the affirmative. Thank you, council. Item number 6, comments from citizens on agenda items. This is the moment of the meeting that if you wish to speak on an item that's on the agenda, this is the time to raise your hand and be recognized. If you're here because you wish to speak on city business other than what's on the agenda, there is a part on the agenda at the very end of tonight's meeting where you can speak on other city matters. So if you wish to speak on an agenda item, please raise your hand and be recognized. Sir. Good evening, sir. Welcome to the city council meeting. Maybe please have your name and address for the record.
Alan Fair, 3 Concord Place, Havre, Grace.
Welcome.
Thank you. What I would like to talk about is the annual Decoy Wildlife Arts Festival, May 1st. We didn't have one last year because of the COVID. We were going to schedule one this year, but then it was to be at the new school, and that's not going to happen. So what we want to do is have tailgate, basically to show a smaller scale, probably 50 to 60 dealers. We just felt that if we didn't do something over a 2-year period, it would be just detrimental, because this, would have been about our, I think, 39th show. So that's what we want to do. There'll be tailgating, the front, the side, wherever we can. And I think Patrick's probably been involved as far as laying it out. And then...
Yes, sir, I do.
You have been?
Yes, sir.
Okay, good.
I'll be presenting that this evening.
Yeah, okay. So I just want to let you know how important it is to us. They're having a meeting tonight, and it's just that we just feel that we need to do something. We'll have the dinner the night before, and so we're just going to do the best we can with what we've got to work with. We'll probably, as we have with other functions, we've used the Bayou property with their permission, and of course we have to have insurance and everything, which we've always done, and that's a possibility. We would go over there. So I hope the city will go along with this, and certainly the reason I'm getting up right now, because I've got to go show a house at 8 o'clock, so I don't know whether you'll be done by then.
Well, you picked the right time to speak, no problem.
Okay, it's been one of those days. All right, so thank you very much for your time.
Thank you very much, Mr.
Okay,
Fair. Thank
You're
you.
welcome.
Yes, ma'am. Good evening and welcome to the city council meeting. May we please have your name and address for the record.
Suzanne Chadwick at 937 Nina Avenue in Havre de Grace.
Welcome.
And as a board member of the Havre de Grace Arts Collective, I was once again asked to mount the Havre de Grace Jazz and Blues Fest, which we had anticipated having last year, but unfortunately we had a pandemic. So with that current pandemic, I have moved forward in planning a 2-day rather than 3-day event that is mostly outdoors. We will have COVID precautions, but I wanted to make sure to correct one little item on 15D5, just that the Pennington stage, which will host 45 to 50-minute free concerts under tent, will run, the concerts will run 5:30 to 7:30 rather than 7 p.m. as it's stated here. All the other timings are good. So we have a free stage, free local stage, right in the heart of downtown. Concord Point Light Park will have a big outdoor stage that the regatta uses and help keep everyone safe and comfortable. And the State Theater is also going to collaborate, so we have 12 concerts that we'd like to present, and I will be here. I will stay here in case you have questions, but I wanted to make sure I at least presented that little bit.
Where is that where is it written wrong? Is it here or here?
Is, well, what?
What are you talking about? What's wrong? Written
Oh,
wrong.
on here, it
performance
says 5:30 to 7 for the Pennington, rather than 5:30 to 7:30. Sorry, I was not clear. We have 2 concerts planned. Ronnie Smith is a Harford County resident whose daughter goes to Harford Tech, and he's a signed guitarist, signed jazz artist. And then the UB Blake Museum is planning to bring us a young artist of a jazz nature, although I don't know who the artist is yet. So I'll be here in case anyone has any questions, or if you have them now.
Anybody have any questions for Ms. Chadwick? Thank you so much. Does any other individual in the audience wish to speak on an agenda item? Any comments from the council? Good. Okay.
Mayor, I have one comment to read into the record that I
Oh.
received online.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Seibel. Please proceed to read that into the record.
Thank you, Mayor. This is from the Lower Susquehanna Heritage Greenway. To the Honorable Mayor Martin and members of City Council, it's the Pride of Baltimore 2 event application. Dear Mayor Martin, Council President Glenn, and members of City Council, the Lower Susquehanna Heritage Greenway, LSHG, is pleased to support America's Star-Spangled Ambassador Pride of Baltimore 2's May 7th through 9th visit to our heritage area. You may recall from previous council email updates that this is a project the LSHG Pride 2 and National Park Services has been working on since early 2020, planning for the 2020 Waterfront Festival and LSHG's 20th anniversary celebration event. Fortunately, our funding support efforts were successful, but the pandemic prevented the 2020 visit. Now we're back on track to have this replica war of 1812 privateer schooner grace our shores. In addition to the ship's presence, the Pride 2 and National Park Service Star-Spangled Banner National Historic Trail plan to provide virtual programming and shoreline displays, encouraging visitors to explore the history of the War of 1812 in the Chesapeake Bay and highlighting the nationally significant connection to the community. This floating museum presents a unique opportunity for educational engagement and enjoyment, especially during these times of limited travel, so we hope you will support this event. Thank you for your time and consideration. Sincerely, Bridget Cardy, Executive Director.
Mr. Seibel, thank you very much for reading that into the record. Okay, we're going to go to item 7, appointments. This evening, we have 3 reappointments to city commissions. We have 1 to the Economic Development Advisory Board, 1 to the Historic Preservation Commission, and 1 to the Planning Commission. So we're going to start with the Economic Development Advisory Board for the reappointment of Ms. Maria Terry, and the liaison is Councilmember Robertson. Good evening, sir.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor. Mr. Mayor, I move to submit Ms. Maria Terry's name for reappointment to the Economic Development Advisory Board.
Council, I have a motion by Councilmember Robertson, seconded by Councilmember Martin. This is for the reappointment of Ms. Maria Terry to the Economic Development Advisory Board. Are there questions or comments among the council before the vote? Sir.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just, want to say a little bit about it. All the folks that serve on EDAB, the Economic Development Advisory Board, are phenomenal people, phenomenal volunteers, phenomenal business people in their respective industries and trades. And, Ms. Terry is no exception. She's always there on time and, hardly misses a meeting. She's very active and involved in the committees and subcommittees that we have. So I really appreciate her willingness to keep serving, and I hope that the rest of the council will join me.
Thank you very much, Councilmember Robertson. Any other further questions or comments from council? Okay, this is for the reappointment, Ms. Maria Terry. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say nay. Ms. Maria Terry is reappointed to the Economic Development Advisory Board by a vote of 6-0 in the affirmative. Thank you very much, council. We're going to go to item B, Historic Preservation reappointment, and our Historic Preservation liaison is Councilmember Zinner. Good evening.
I make a motion to
Thank you very much, Councilmember Zinner. Council, I have a motion by Councilmember Zinner. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Councilmember Robertson. This is for the reappointment of Ms. Carol Nemeth, Historic Preservation Commission. Question or comments? Councilmember Zinner.
I want to take a moment to just thank Ms. Carol Nemeth for, again, putting herself forward to serve on the Historic Preservation Commission. For at least the past 25 years, Carol has been welcoming people, locals, and people from out of town to her iconic historic home and bed and breakfast. And it really stands out on Union Avenue as a real prize. She also serves with grace and common sense and enthusiasm on the Historic Preservation Commission, and I couldn't be happier that she has decided to serve another term.
Thank you for your comments, Councilmember Zinner. Any further comments from the council? From the council? That's okay. Okay, for the vote on Ms. Carol Nemeth, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say nay. Reappointment Ms. Carol Nemeth is approved 6-0 in the affirmative. Item number C, a Planning Commission reappointment, Mr. Harry Miller, and I'll hand that off to the Planning Commission liaison, Mr. Ringsager, Councilmember Ringsager.
Mr. Mayor, Council, I would like to make the motion to reappoint Mr. Harry Miller to the Planning Commission.
Council, I have a motion by Councilmember Ringsager, seconded by Councilmember Martin. Questions or comments on the reappointment? Councilmember Ringsager.
I got to tell you, Harry is such a great guy. Very smart, very knowledgeable about the building codes in the state. He's currently the project manager for our new high school. So he works for Havre County Public Schools. He is currently the vice chair of the Planning Commission, and his knowledge base is very useful on the commission. So I do pray that he gets reappointed.
Excellent. Thank you very much, Councilmember Ringsager. Any further questions or comments? For the reappointment of Mr. Harry Miller to the Planning Commission, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say nay. Reappointment of Mr. Harry Miller is approved by council 6-0 in the affirmative. Thank you very much, council, for all three reappointments. They are all excellent people who've served on the commission very well, and I appreciate your support. We're going to go down to item 8, oath of office. Although all three reappointments were just that, reappointments, we don't have to swear anybody in. We did appoint a gentleman, Mr. James Clark, to the Water and Sewer Commission back in January, and we were unable at the time because of COVID restrictions here in the chamber to swear Mr. Clark in. So we were fortunate to have him in the audience this evening, and if I could be humble enough to call you forward, and your wife, and please, if you wish, all come forward and we'll take the oath.
You want to ask Dave? Or so?
Dave, you want to join us? Come up if you want. It's okay. Stand there and face me. Thank you for being here. Actually appreciate it. And Dave, actually, if you don't mind, Dave, you want to kind of hold the microphone kind of near us? So that'd be perfect. That'd be perfect.
Gotta hold it close to his mouth, otherwise we don't.
Want to hear anything?
His mouth, not you.
Okay.
Hold it like up higher.
I will.
Okay, Mr. Clark, thank you so much. I'm going to ask you to raise your right hand and repeat after me. I'm going to say the word I. When I say the word I, please repeat the word I, but then say your name.
I, James Edward Clark,
Do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will fulfill
that I will fulfill
the requirement
the requirement
of the office I'm about to assume,
of the office I'm about to assume,
that I will support the Constitution of the United
that I will support the Constitution of the United States,
that I will be faithful and bear true allegiance
that I will be faithful and bear true allegiance
to the state of Maryland
to the state of Maryland
and support the Constitution
and support the Constitution
and laws thereof,
and laws thereof,
that I will faithfully and impartially,
that I will faithfully and impartially,
without fear of favor or prejudice,
without fear of favor or prejudice,
discharge the duties
discharge the duties
as a member of the Water Sewer Commission
as a member of the Water Sewage Commission
to the best of my ability.
to the best of my ability.
Thank you very much.
Can't run away that quick, right?
Here you go, sir. That's yours. Actually, I need
Mr. Clark, did you bring your whistle? Where's the whistle at?
you to sign something for me.
Make it official.
Sign this right here. And we also like to present city on commission, flag of our city as well.
Before you run away, this is just my crown coin, it's also the seal on it. Thank you again for coming forward and serving.
Good.
Thank you. Okay, excellent. We will move on to item number 9 this evening, which is recognitions. And this evening, we have no recognitions. Number 10, proclamations. We have nothing to proclaim. And item 11, presentations. Boy, do we have a presentation for everybody tonight. That's all I got to say. So the bar is set so high. I'm kidding. I'm joking, Dr. Wilson. No, anyway, this is a excellent friend of mine, a PhD in the field of history, just an overall tremendous, great person here in the city of Havre de Grace. And I'd like to introduce everybody to Dr. Amy Rosencrans, who's going to be talking to us this evening about Havre de Grace's role in the women's suffrage movement and a assembly that took place in 1915 that was very important in the 19th Amendment passage. So, Dr. Rosencrans, it's all yours.
Thank you, Mr. Martin. Good evening, everyone. I am so excited to be here tonight to talk to you about women's suffrage. And we're going to be talking just a little bit, I promise it won't be too long, but the history of Havre de Grace is important to all of us. And growing up in Havre de Grace, we've always learned about the War of 1812. We learned about how Havre de Grace was almost the capital of the United States. We learned all of those things, but we never heard about the women who participated in the women's suffrage movement. So a year and a half ago, I had the opportunity to start working with the Maryland Women's Heritage Center. And their goal over the past year was to identify the women in Maryland who fought for the right to vote. And they were doing biographies of all sorts of Maryland women. And when I went to a conference, I went to a lecture and talked to them, and I said, well, where are the Harford County women? And they said, we don't know any. We don't have anybody who's doing any research. We don't know if anybody did. Well, we know they did, but we don't know who they are. And I said, well, I'm here and I'll do the research. So for the past year and a half, I have been researching Harford County women, but of course with a focus on Havre de Grace women. So I want to talk to you a little bit about the Havre de Grace women and then what we're doing this month to celebrate them. The very first instance of Havre de Grace women participating in the suffrage movement that we know of so far occurred in 1911 with this group of women that you see here on the slide. This was a group of young ladies who lived in the Ontario Otsego Street area who decided to form a literacy society, and they called themselves the Havre de Grace, HDG, SUFs. There are a number of articles in the newspaper about them participating. It was a true literacy society, but obviously it had a focus on voting. You will notice some of these, there's several names there, and there's 2 pictures. And one of my focuses in looking at these women is to find out who they were and to find out their pictures. And I've had a really incredible opportunity to be researching women such as these on here and finding that many of their descendants are still living in Havre de Grace in the Harford County area. So as we go through, you're going to recognize some names, you're going to recognize some faces, and hopefully you'll join me by the end of the month in celebrating who they are. So by 1911, we have this Havre de Grace Suffs group meeting in Havre de Grace, having evening events at their houses, talking in the newspaper about being out late till 11 o'clock at night because they're having such a good time doing what they're doing and talking about suffrage. But by 1912, we have in Harford County an entire suffrage organization that, even though it's focused and formed of women that are mostly in the Forest Hill, Fallston, Bel Air area, they are servicing the entire county. And it's their goal to recruit as many men and especially women who want to get the right to vote for women. So these women, and this woman pictured here is going to be especially important to us this month, Miss Theodore W. Forbes, or Elizabeth as I like to call her. She went all around the county trying to get women the right to vote. And their goal was to recruit as many people as possible. And they went to every nook and cranny in Harford County, and they really liked to come to Havre de Grace. There were a number of different events at the Opera House, but this event is especially interesting, I believe, because the keynote speaker that evening was a woman by the name of Katharine Hooton Hepburn. That name may sound familiar. This is not the Katharine Hooton Hepburn, but this is the mother of Katharine Hepburn that came here to Havre de Grace to advocate for women's suffrage. So that's just one of the famous people that came here to Havre de Grace. We see lots of different events, and we know that by 1912, again, the racetrack is a really big deal. And we know all about the history of the racetrack, but we didn't know until recently that women's suffrage workers were at the racetrack passing out leaflets and trying to obtain people who were ready to support women voters. By 1913, Havre de Grace is on the national stage for suffrage. And that was because there is a group of women from New York called the Army of the Hudson. And they decided they were going to march from New York City to Washington, D.C., in order to be a part of the inaugural festivities for Woodrow Wilson. They marched in March all the way from New York City to Washington, D.C. And as we like to say, you can't go anywhere on the East Coast unless you stop in Havre de Grace first, right? So these women stop in Havre de Grace, and actually they talk about the fact that Havre de Grace is probably the best place that they stop on their trip, the first place that is the most hospitable. So hospitable that we have a group called the Wilson Social Club, so-called because they socialized at the Wilson Pool Hall, who walked across the Susquehanna River Bridge, led by Mrs. Grace Thompson, the bugler, who marched them across the bridge into Havre de Grace to stop here for the night in Havre de Grace. Mrs. Grace Thompson is pictured there. Her descendants are here in Harford County. And they meet with the mayor at the time. And this is not your favorite quote, Mayor Martin, but this might be your second favorite quote once you see it. Mayor Weber, who's the mayor at the time, he says he's a halfway suffragette. He's not ready to support everything, all the votes for women, but some of them. But despite the fact that he's not a full suffragette, he does provide a warm welcome for the marchers. The marchers stay at the Harford House Hotel, which may look familiar to some of us, and they talk about the fact that the accommodations were fair and the home cooking was really, really good. And from that time on, Havre de Grace becomes this stopping point for people coming in and through on the suffrage movement and becomes a really, really kind of hotbed of what's going on in the suffrage movement. So much so that by 1915, when the Maryland Just Government League decides to have an event, they choose Havre de Grace to be one of the stops. Now, the March of the Hudson was a really big deal. It was covered in all the newspapers, and it was really interesting to a lot of people because these women, women, in 1913, were marching. They refused to get in cars, and they were marching. So it was a big spectacle. Well, the Maryland Just Government League decided to have a different type of spectacle, and they built a prairie schooner. And we all remember the Oregon Trail prairie schooners, right, moving out west. So these ladies built the schooner. They covered it with Just Government League posters and banners and flags and Votes for Women flag, and they decided that Harford County would be the perfect place to try out this kind of idea of camping, and they did camp in some cases, around a region to get votes for women. And again, just like you can't get anywhere from the south to the north without going through Havre de Grace, you can't go anywhere in Harford County without coming here either. So they stop here in Havre de Grace. You can see there's Miss Forbes. Miss Forbes is there again because she's in charge of the prairie schooner. She's the one that worked with all the local women in Harford County, including a few here in Havre de Grace, who made all the arrangements, made all of the entertainment. Where are they going to stop? Who are they going to greet? They stop here in Havre de Grace on the 4th of July weekend. Now, if we think the 4th of July is a big deal now, you read the newspaper events of the 4th of July in Havre de Grace in 1915, it was huge. So huge that they built this new kind of grandstand gazebo thing. And the mayor at the time, another interesting mayor by the name of Fahey, he is not quite a believer in suffrage, but he does allow the women to use this newly built gazebo grandstand for their rally, and they do. And the Just Government League women, the suffragists, gain a lot of new members there, and they are able to get a little money as well for the cause. And this is the event that becomes such an important deal when we're looking at the history of Havre de Grace, because it's a huge focus in what we'll be talking about in a minute. But I want to tell you a couple more things. Havre de Grace continues to be the center point of a lot of suffrage activity, including finally in December of 1919 at the Willow Theater, which is right next door to the State Theater. The Harford County Just Government League has a big meeting, and it's at this meeting that they pass a resolution asking the Harford County legislators in the Maryland General Assembly to vote for the Susan B. Anthony Amendment. Unfortunately, our Harford County legislators did not listen to them, nor did most of the Maryland General Assembly, because the Maryland General Assembly refused to pass or refused to ratify the Susan B. Anthony Amendment. But there were 36 states that did. So by August 18th of 1920, women's suffrage has been won, and women's suffrage is the law of the land. But there are still people across the country in Maryland and in Havre de Grace who aren't too happy about that, including a gentleman by the name of Mr. Fahey. Mr. Fahey is no longer the mayor, but he's running again to be the mayor in 1921. And the women who have obtained the vote are now saying, we have the vote because we want to clean up government. We don't like the political bosses that are running things. And Mr. Fahey was seen as a political boss. He was seen as in the pocket of the racetrack. He was seen as in the pocket of every gambler, every liquor establishment, etc. And he was seen as a boss. In the Evening Sun, he's asked about that. And he says that women, they just they're basically say they have their eyes on heaven and they think they can fix everything. But women really need a boss. This does not engender him, pun intended, to any of the women or many of the women in Havre de Grace who have started registering to vote. 250 new voters registered to vote for the first election that women are allowed to vote in, including Miss Lyon, you may recognize that name. And they go to the polls because there's a mayoral election in 1921 in May. And that is between Mr. Fahey and Mr. Vesey. And guess what? The election comes down to 20 votes. Mr. Vesey wins. Mr. Fahey does not take this sitting down. He accuses or he blames his loss on women voters. and he and his advisors decide to go to court. They go to court and say that the Havre de Grace Charter says that only male citizens can vote. And those 200 and some women who voted, illegally voted, and then the election was illegal. So his loss wasn't really a loss. Sounds familiar? So as we're talking, we see he goes to court. Goes to the circuit court where the judge says, wait a minute. And Mr. Martin, I know you teach this in your 8th grade social studies class. There's this thing called the Supremacy Clause. And in the Constitution, it says that the Constitution is supreme over state and local governments. And so Havre de Grace women were jubilant at the fact that the election was upheld. Mr. Fahey went off into the sunset, and Mr. Vesey was the mayor. But Havre de Grace women were jubilant, they were victorious, and we continue to be jubilant and victorious to this day. And that's what we're celebrating this month in Havre de Grace. We were lucky enough to work with the Maryland Women's Heritage Center and the Pomeroy Foundation to be able to document enough suffrage activity in Havre de Grace to warrant a historic marker. So on the last Saturday of this month, March 27th, we will be dedicating a marker in Tidings Park at the exact place where the 1915 suffrage rally took place. And the women of Havre de Grace have rallied again, and the arts people, the arts collective, and not only are we having a marker dedication, we're having a full week of activities. And the flyer is out, and we'll make sure you have all of the information. We are having living history portrayals. We are having a lecture with 2 of our lovely Havre de Grace Council people. We are having a movie of Iron-Jawed Angels. And most importantly, or I think most fun, we are going to be having a suffrage march. So gather your white, your bowler hats, Patrick. And at 11:45, we're going to be gathering at the Opera House in full suffrage attire and marching from the Opera House to Tidings Park, where we'll be ready for the marker celebration. So I hope that everyone will join us. And I'm also putting a plea out there because we're still looking for the people who participated in the movement. We know that there are more women. Like I said, I just found one picture today. We are identifying descendants all over the place, and if anyone out there knows of any of the women I've mentioned or any other women that may have participated in the suffrage movement, we'd love to hear their stories so that we can document them too. So thank you, and I want to thank your staff, Mayor Martin. They have been fabulous in helping establish this event. And council members, you should have a little gift at your seat. We have medallions made by the incomparable Big House Signs that will be celebrating the event at the end of the month. And they will be available for purchase at some point too. So, thank you.
Thank you. Dr. Rosencrantz, thank you. That was a great presentation. But more importantly, it's an educational presentation because very few people knew about that. I mean, I'll never forget when you came to my office over a year ago and you met with myself and Patrick and the chief of staff, Steve Gamtoria. We had no idea. And one of the things that we take so much pride in Havre de Grace, we always feel Havre de Grace is this great melting pot of a city, and what makes us different is we just feel we have that sense of acceptance with people. You know, we're different, and I think it's the history of our city. It's perhaps that it was a port city in the 1800s. It's just a more of a blend of different, people with diversity. We've always been convinced Havre de Grace played a role in the Underground Railroad and things like that, but we just weren't sure what our role was in the women's suffrage movement. And we just kind of figured, well, Havre de Grace participated in a lot of things, but maybe not that. And when you came with this information, it was just awesome. I mean, we got so excited, and especially the story you said about the election of 1921. These are just names on a wall now, but people don't remember, or if they even knew, just what was at stake, and that the election was contested. And right away, the Supremacy Clause was enforced that the amendment did carry, and that amendment, the ink wasn't even dry on it. And so, like I said, Havre de Grace not only supported it, but Havre de Grace tested it at the same time, and which gives me so much pride to be a Havre de Grace citizen that, yes, we're so awesome in so many ways, and we had something to do with that. And so with open arms, we accept this knowledge you brought to us, the plaque that was made that I would like for you to help me unveil in a second. And I really hope everybody can join us on the March 27th at 1 o'clock down at Tidings Park for the dedication of this Pomeroy Foundation marker. Now, the Pomeroy Foundation does all the historic markers you see throughout the city, throughout Harford County. The Lafayette marker that was dedicated in November was a Pomeroy Foundation, so that's a pretty big deal. When a Pomeroy Foundation says you're hip enough to get a marker, then that's a real deal. I mean, that's when they pay that, it's a heavy cast iron marker, and sometimes they all have their own flair to it. This one, as you'll see, the color coordination, of course, it's for women's suffrage, white and pink. But, and again, the entire itinerary of the events at the Opera House, for the Iron Jawed Angel movie, the march down to Tidings Park, all that stuff is going to be in a part of a press release that the city's going to release. Also, Adam, that's going to be on the city website, city social media outlets. So if you're watching this and you're wondering, how can I get involved? How can I be part of this? The city's putting out a press release starting tomorrow on March 16th. And so we'll bombard you with information. I'm sure it'll be in the newspaper. It's going to be on social media outlets. But again, Dr. Rosencrantz, this information would have been lost to the ages had it not been for your diligence. And that's really what being a historian is all about, is saving it for people to one day reflect. And I think you just gave this whole city a ginormous amount of information to reflect upon and to make us proud for our role in history. So, Council, can I ask everyone to, we'll say something in a minute, but can I ask everybody to join me while we present this Pomeroy marker? Can you join me down in the well? I'll make sure every council member has a chance to say something. Okay, what we're going to do here, Dr. Rosencrantz, I'm going to hand you this microphone in a second. So when we unveil it, you can read it for the first time to the public. Casey, would you like to help me unveil this? And Carolyn? This is yours. So, ladies and gentlemen, this is our Pomeroy Foundation marker, and would you like to give the honor of unveiling? Now, Dr. Rosencrantz is going to read this officially. Dr. Rosencrantz will read this officially to the record.
Road to the 19th Amendment, Votes for Women. Elizabeth Forbes, Harford County suffragist, organized Prairie Schooner Women's Suffrage Campaign Stop Here in Havre de Grace in 1915. William G. Pomeroy Foundation, 2020. Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Council, any comments? Councilmember Zinner. Microphone.
Do this too. Elizabeth Forbes had a nickname, and it was Jailbird. She was one of the only suffragists that was arrested for her efforts. So I just thought I'd add that.
Thank you, Councilmember Zinner. Any other comments from council members? Councilmember Robertson.
Mr. Mayor, I remember when this was first discussed several months ago, it was brought up that we were getting a plaque. And I heard a little bit about the story, but I really appreciate Dr. Amy doing the presentation for us here. You're right, that was a very good presentation. I probably could have listened to it for another 15, 20 minutes, without blinking an eye. But it's fascinating. It's absolutely fascinating that Havre Grace was such an integral part of, a huge event in history. I never knew until a few months ago, and now I understand a little bit more, and that's really cool. It's just one more feather in the cap of being happy to be here and live in this town. So, yeah, thank you for everybody that did the research on that, and, is doing the research on it, and I look forward to learning more.
Thank you, Councilmember Robertson. Any other comments from council? Council President Glenn.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I think Dr. Rosecrans said it all, and it just goes to show her attention to detail truly, truly speaks for itself. And it really generated history that would have otherwise gone unnoticed. As a kid growing up, I got to know the Rosecrans family because her dad was a very dedicated volunteer with the Susquehanna Hose Company, and I got to know, and the ambulance corps too, and I got to know the Rosecrans family, and Dr. Rosecrans, your dad, be proud. So I have.
Thank you, Council President. Any further questions or comments? Okay, excellent. That was a very good presentation, and I hope people have a chance to participate in the events following up to March 27th's dedication. So, couldn't be any more proud or happier. Okay, item 12, we're going to move on to item 12 now. And item 12 is a resolution. Calendar resolution concerning license agreement for sign at 669 Revolution Street. And we're going to refer this to the chair of the planning committee, Councilmember Ringsager.
I'm actually the ex officio member of the planning committee. I am not the chair. Mr. Volney
Chair of the planning committee, not the...
Committee I am. You said
committee, you are. That's what I said, committee.
Okay.
You're the liaison to the commission.
Liaison.
Don't mess with me, Jimmy.
All right. We're going to take it out back. Mr. Mayor, council, citizens, I make a motion to introduce a calendar resolution concerning license agreement for a sign at 669 Revolution Street.
Council, I have a motion by Councilmember Ringsager. It's seconded by Councilmember Robertson. This is a resolution concerning a license agreement at 669 Revolution Street. And this is for the introduction of the resolution, in the introduction. Questions or comments on the introduction? All those in favor say aye.
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 All opposed say nay. Calendar resolution concerning license agreement for 669 Revolution Street. The introduction carries 6-0 in the affirmative. Council, this will be resolution 2021-05. 2021-05. I will read the header into the record. A resolution by the mayor and city council of the city of Havre de Grace, Maryland, pursuant to section 33 and 34 of the city charter and the local government article of the annotated code of Maryland, authorized the mayor to enter into a license for construction and installation of a freestanding sign on the city right-of-way at 669 Revolution Street. Council, to have a motion to adopt.
So moved.
Second.
Would I have a tie on that one? I heard it from both directions.
I said,
I have a motion by Council President, seconded by Councilmember Zinner.
I seconded.
Oh, you second. Okay, sorry about that. Motion by the Council President, seconded by Councilmember Ringsager. Okay. Questions or comments? Councilmember Ringsager.
Mr. Mayor, council, this is for a license agreement to put a sign in the city right-of-way at South Adams and Revolution on the corner of Dr. Lee's office. It is an electrified sign that meets all the requirements of our sign code. Standard boilerplate language, $50 administrative fee, gives the 5-year term to expire on December 31st, 2025, per our previous agreements on when lease agreements expire. And I have no objection to this at all. Everything seems to be pretty standard, sir. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you, Councilmember Ringsager. Any other questions or comments from the council? Councilmember Boyer.
So I recognize the owner's need for this, and that it meets all the requirements. I just want to say out loud that I'm saddened that it doesn't do anything to add to the look of the area. It's a very basic sign. It does what it needs to do. It says his name. I get that completely, but it's another missed opportunity. Revolution is one of those areas where a lot of people come into our town, and we need to do a little bit more to pick it up. And it's just a missed opportunity to do something just a little bit more to make that area look better. It's a basic sign. I don't find anything wrong with it. I'm not going to object to it. I'm just sad that it's a missed opportunity. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Boyer. Any other questions or comments? Councilmember Robertson.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. No, Jimmy and Shane brought this before Planning Committee, and, you know, it's very straightforward. It meets all of the requirements, and Planning and DPW had no objections, so I'm in favor.
Thank you, Councilmember Robertson. Any other questions or comments? With no further questions or comments, I'm going to call a roll call vote on this resolution, Council. We'll start with Councilmember Zinner. Yes. Councilmember Martin.
Yes.
Councilmember Boyer.
Yes.
Councilmember Ringsager.
Yes.
Councilmember Robertson.
Yes?
Council President Glenn.
Yes.
By a roll call vote of 6-0 in the affirmative, Council Resolution 2021-05, a calendar resolution concerning license agreement for 669 Revolution Street, is adopted and approved. Thank you. Item 13, ordinances. There are no ordinances this evening. Item 13A was removed by council at the beginning of the meeting. So we'll go to item 14, this evening, old business. There is no old business to attend to this evening. Item 15 would be new business, and we got some new business. And we have, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Okay, we have 3 budget amendments and a slew of special events that we're going to be addressing this evening. So we're going to start off with Budget Amendment A, which is going to be Budget Amendment 2021-10, and it's going to be concerning the Ernest Burke statue. Councilmember Robertson.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Mr. Mayor, fellow council members, I move to adopt Budget Amendment 2021-10.
Council, I have a motion by Councilmember Robertson, second by Councilmember Martin. Questions or comments on the budget amendment? Councilmember Robertson.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Ladies and gentlemen in the audience and at home, just for your awareness, this is the city's contribution, promised contribution and matching funds to the Ernest Burke Foundation. For those not aware, Ernest Burke was a member of the Negro League from Havre de Grace, and the foundation is setting up a statue to be placed in his honor. And the good news is that we should be seeing that this spring. The cast is currently at the foundry, and the groundbreaking will be scheduled sometime in April. So very much looking forward to that, recognizing a Havre de Grace boy. The funding for this will come from higher than expected real property taxes. So it's money that hasn't been dedicated to a specific purpose yet. And that's it, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you very much, Councilmember Robertson. Councilmember Martin.
Yes, I want to thank the city, the administration, and the council. This was one of the first projects and one of the first things when I was elected, when I was approached by Cam A. Murphy about these type of recognition of past history and the placement of statues so well deserved that honor our history, but also comply with our arts and entertainment as well. It's so nice to see statues of historical figures going up in town, recognizing our history. Example in front of you now, and the Ernest Burke will be another example of the city of Havre Grace recognizing its past and bringing it to everyone's attention that we are a historical city. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councilmember Martin. Any other questions or comments? Okay, council. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say nay. Budget Amendment 2021-10 is approved by this council. And Councilmember Robertson, would you be kind enough to read the account numbers from the where to the how to the what to the when?
Yeah, sure. In the from column, account number 01-0001-41-01, real property taxes, $10,000. In the to column, account number 01-2332-6253, community projects of Havre de Grace, Ernest Burke, $10,000.
Excellent. Councilmember Robinson, thank you very much. Mr. DeHorty, are all the numbers checked out? Thank you very much, Mr. DeHorty. Okay, excellent. We're going to go to item B, Budget Amendment 2021-11. Taser Replacement Program. Councilmember Robertson.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor. Mr. Mayor, fellow council members, I move to approve Budget Amendment 2021-11.
Second.
Motion by Councilmember Robertson, second by Council President. Questions or comments on the budget amendment? I'll start with Councilmember Robertson. I'll come back to you, Councilmember Martin.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Again, ladies and gentlemen here and at home, just for some background, so the police department had planned to start replacing their existing taser cartridges next fiscal year because they will have exceeded their useful life. However, because of a decrease in total projected spending for police services and all other personnel costs, so basically offset of salary and overtime savings because the city didn't do a lot of events this past year, there was some savings in the police budget. So the city's asking that we use some of that savings to go ahead and start ordering the equipment ahead of next fiscal year.
Thank you, Councilmember Robertson. Councilmember Martin.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, council, citizens. This is also in line, the purchase of these new tasers with the less lethal enforcement and use of force. So it will help deter. It's a new tool. It'll be a better tool, and there'll be additional training for our police officers and escalation because of the use of a new taser and what it's really allowed to be used for. So again, it meets all the current criteria that we're looking at down in Annapolis for less lethal means of enforcement, and it's nice to see the police department moving forward in those efforts.
Thank you, Councilmember Martin. Councilmember Zinner.
Yes, I would just like to point out one other thing that came up at the budget meeting is that if we move the order to this fiscal year, we can get a 7% discount off the cost, so that reduces the price somewhat, and we start with our incremental purchases a year sooner.
Thank you, Councilmember Zinner. Any other questions or comments?
Do we get to play with the outdated ones?
I tell you what, if you vote no on this budget amendment, you get to be the first test subject.
I mean, I'll fully admit, I'll let them tase me. I mean, that's fine. We'll set it up. Let me know.
I'm just worried about criminals out there knowing that our tasers are approaching their useful life.
Hey, well, that's why we're getting new ones tonight.
That's right. We're buying brand new ones immediately.
Joke's on you.
Hopefully, if it passes. So, all right. Criminals probably don't watch council meetings anyway, so I'm just.
Probably not. And they're going to watch it tomorrow anyways.
Okay, thank you, Councilmember Ring. Sorry. Any other questions or comments? Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say nay. Budget Amendment 2021-11. It's approved by council 6-0 in the affirmative. we have one more budget amendment, and that's going to be Budget Amendment 2021-12 involving critical area. And Councilmember Robertson.
Mr. Mayor, you want me to read those account numbers first?
Oh, I'm sorry, yes, please go ahead on the taser transfer.
Yep.
Yes, go ahead.
Sure. In the from column, 01-1112-5004, PD SO salaries overtime, $20,500. In the to column, 01-1112-6137, supplies and materials, tasers, $20,500.
Thank you very much, Councilmember Robertson. Mr. Doherty, are the numbers correct? Thank you very much, Mr. Doherty. Okay, we will go to item C. Councilmember Robertson, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Fellow council members, I move to approve Budget Amendment 2021-12.
I have a motion by Councilmember Robertson, seconded by Councilmember Zinner. This is for Budget Amendment 2021-12. Questions or comments? Okay, council, if you'll indulge me, I know some council members had some questions about this budget transfer, and so I'd like to call forward Ms. Stephanie Noy, who works for the city of Havre de Grace in the department that is necessarily to describe this. Ms. Noy, thank you very much for being here this evening to give the public a little, shed some light on exactly what this budget amendment is all about.
It's my pleasure, Mayor, and good evening, Council President, all council members. Thank you for having me before you once again. This one is a little bit easier and less complicated to understand. What you're looking at is part of our project in the critical area. All the shoreline in Havre de Grace is a designated critical area, and therefore we have certain parameters we have to meet always with projects and any work that we perform there. So this time we're talking a little bit about vegetation management, and we're also talking a little bit about design. So this next slide you're familiar with is our Concord Point stormwater management. And on the right-hand top corner, you can see all three phases of that project. What's important here is to maximize the native plantings, to maximize the ecosystem, to get the most wildlife back and be the most beneficial for water quality treatments. And of course, we talked about invasives before, native plants before, and we always want to, and we're responsible for minimizing any adverse impacts to those plantings and to water quality. So we are beholden by many measures. This is another picture of a practice that we put in. We've been busy the last few years, and the important part not only is to construct these projects, but to maintain them. And that means maintenance, keeping the invasive plants out, keeping the weeds out, as well as maintaining. The native plants don't require as much maintenance as normal plants do, but because they are, they evolve from our region, our soils, they're used to our climates, and that's why we choose them. They have longer, larger, healthier root systems, and they'll uptake more nutrients that way. And also, if you may have never looked at these plants like this before, but they're our defense against the invasive pests that come with the invasive plants. So our best defense is plant natives. And they just require less maintenance, but still, this slide is a few of the native plants that you're accustomed to seeing in our projects along the shoreline. And upland too. But critical area is along the shoreline. And that's what we're talking about use tonight. And we have the responsibility to maintain these projects once we construct them. And part of the fund transfer, the budget amendment tonight is for maintenance. It requires a lot of maintenance to keep the invasives out, not so much to keep the natives healthy, but you do have instances where they get damaged and destroyed. But, okay, the other half of the budget amendment is talking about design for some of the areas in the critical area. Now this, you may not recognize, but it's actually beside the lightkeeper's house. And so the next slide shows what a design would look like for that. So that's what we're paying for out of this budget amendment, would be the design, not constructing the project, but designing it so that it can be constructed later on. Also for maintenance, we do involve a lot of our volunteers, and this is another design we're asking for at Veterans Park. There's special amended soils there, and it just needs a little pick-me-up, a little more attractive planting. Not that those plantings are bad. Some of the trees are leaning a little bit and need a little replacement, a little love and attention. So we're having a plan designed for that. This picture is at the foot of Pennington Avenue. It's city property, and we want to represent it as such. So we'd like to design a little something, not a lot, to get that attractive and useful and not be a grounds for anything but native plants. The next one is the city property at the foot of Green Street. And again, we're going to use the funds toward design. The next one is a great area that we removed invasives last year, although when you say you remove invasives, we knocked them down. There's still root mattings there, so we need a design for not only planting for this one, but we need a design for the attack on the root mats that are left over, because it was very, very overgrown. And we've removed that. We see a lot more people using this trail now that we kind of cleared it up a little bit. And the trail system that we put in is all natural. It's called grass protected matting. We put a little pedestrian bridge over the last lock, and it all leads around from the parking lot, around the pond, down the shoreline, and also to the elevated walkway at the Joe K Trail. So that's basically it. And what we're asking for is, it's our money from the special taxing district, and we're asking for a portion of it to be transferred to cover design of these projects that you've seen. There's one other one that I didn't have a picture for, and that's the splash area at the yacht basin. And as you're going into the yacht basin, you're entering it, it's on the your left as you're driving in. And it's kind of beside the condos over on that side and down. We had the first outfall. And I know the invasives, they've been fighting there pretty well clear in our portion. So we need a design to plant that back and also handle the outfall water. So it's called a splash area for that reason. And we're just excited about these projects, and what we'll do for the construction is go ahead and go after grant money that we can use. And then also, in the future, we can use the critical area funds for these kind of projects that we do in the critical area.
Thank you, Ms. Noyd. Councilmember Martin, question?
No question, statement.
Okay.
Mr. Mayor, council, citizens, along with what you see tonight, down in Annapolis, both the Senate and the House are working on legislation for the environment. And part of it does include the getting rid of invasive and going to natural plant growth, native plant growth in the area. There is going to be funding with that, and Stephanie can attest to this. Once you have skin in the game, they're more willing to give us grants. So there's legislation in Annapolis right now for these type of projects. I'm not sure where it's at. I have to finish researching that, but it's down there now. They're working on a lot of things, police reform, Kerwin, and those, but the environment is also big on their list, and the water, especially the bay, and we are the top of the bay. We should be able to help get grants because of these type of projects. So I'd be in support of this amendment.
Thank you, Councilmember Martin. Any comments? Councilmember Robertson.
Yeah, I just wanted to speak a little bit about the budget amendment. So first of all, thank you, Stephanie, for giving us that detailed presentation. For folks' awareness, if you live within what's considered the critical area in Havre de Grace, I do, just barely, but I think it's like 1,000 feet off the shore. You're subject to a special taxing district, so there's money that comes out of my property tax that, well, it's an additional tax, but it's assigned by my property tax that goes into this pot to specifically be used for these critical area restoration projects. And, you know, the bulk of this is directly for the shore buffer management. The types of project that Stephanie's describing here are very much in line with what's currently being done with the living shoreline. And if you're not familiar with that, that's a project to basically use plants as a buffer to soak up all the bad stuff before it hits the river and hits the bay and pollutes our waterway. And I believe that once Ms. Noy is finished with her project, Havre de Grace will be the only municipality in Maryland that is able to meet the MDE and EPA requirements, meaning that all of the stormwater that runs into the bay and into the river will be as clean as it can get. And as an aside, I'd like to echo Councilmember Martin's comments as well, that the bulk of the actual work itself will likely be grant funded. I wish that I were keeping track. I'm pretty certain that Stephanie's got us about 1,000 to 1 ratio with grant funding so far, especially after the Living Shoreline project is finished. So I have no doubt that moving forward, we shouldn't be seeing any, not much in terms of city funding going to this. But again, I just want to remind folks at home that this funding source is a specific purpose fund. It's only for these types of projects and for stormwater remediation. So thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Robertson. Councilmember Boyer.
I just want to say, again, kudos, wonderful foresight, looking forward, looking for the places that need to be fixed. And thank you very much for doing this presentation to help us all recognize and look around our area and see places that that need just a little bit of fixing, and I really look forward to what you offer. I know in the past, and maybe as our world opens up, maybe you can do just a couple of like tours, or just getting the information out using the green team, maybe just to educate people who live within the critical area of plantings and other things that we can do to help, help pay it forward for our kids. So, thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Councilmember Zinner. Thank you, Councilmember Boyer.
Thank you very much. The other thing I wanted to point out, that there is a process to this, that not just take that money, even though we have to get permission to use it. So the projects have to be approved by the State of Maryland Critical Area in Atlantic Coast. And once we get that letter of approval, then we can request that funds be. So I want to thank Diane Clare, Representative Stephanie, for being such wonderful.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Zinner. Any other questions for Ms. Noy? Stephanie, thank you very much for your presentation.
Thank you.
Any other questions or comments? I know we're under the question originally, but I did want to ask Ms. Noy to come up and give a little bit of insight, I mean, for the public's benefit as well. Any other questions about this project or budget transfer? Okay, Council, we're under the question, and it was originally, hold on, sorry. It was motioned by Councilmember Robertson, seconded by Councilmember Zinner. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say nay. Budget Amendment 2021-12 is approved by council, 6-0 in the affirmative. Councilmember Robertson, would you like to read the transfer numbers into the record, sir?
No, but I will.
Okay.
From account number 01-0001-49-00, fund transfers, critical area, $46,700 in the to column. Account number 01-1251-7084, critical area remediation, $46,700.
Thank you very much, Councilmember Robertson. Mr. DeHorty, is everything straight? Yes, sir, Mr. Mayor. Thank you very much, sir. Okay, excellent. We're going to go to item D, which is going to be special events. We have a list of special events. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. We have 6 special events on the agenda this evening to be approved by council. So we're going to start off with the 39th Annual Decoy and Wildlife Art Festival. Mr. Seipold.
Thank you, Mayor, and good evening, council. The first event is the 39th Annual Decoy and Wildlife Art Festival. This show is sponsored by the Havre Grace Decoy Museum. This is a one-day event located at the museum and the surrounding open space beside and behind the museum, that area fronting Market Street. The date of this event is Saturday, May the 1st. They wish to begin setup on the day before the event, April 30th, at around 6 p.m. The event will begin on Saturday morning at 8 and end at 6. Cleanup begins immediately following the event. There will not be any alcohol sold or served at this function. There will be gambling in the form of raffles. The anticipated attendance is 250. There is no rain date. Really, no city services have been requested. However, the city will have staff on site to stock and keep the public restroom in good working order. And there are no costs for PD. The Public Works expense for this is $77.25. Their COVID plan has been reviewed and approved by the Health Department.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Seipold. Okay, council, this is for the 39th Annual Decoy Wildlife Arts Festival scheduled for May 1st, 2021. The time is 8 a.m. to 6 p.m. on the Decoy Museum grounds. I have a motion to approve this event.
So moved.
Okay, we're going to go. Motion was by the council president, and I heard a second from Councilmember Martin.
Wow.
Questions or comments on the event? Council President?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I will say that I got a phone call tonight from Mike Tarquini, who said that they had the board meeting tonight. He really wanted to be here. He said Mr. Fair was going to be here, and you spoke very well tonight. And Mike just said he hopes he got full support of council for this event. So,
Thank you for your comment, Council President. Any other questions or comments? Okay. All those in favor say aye.
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 All opposed say nay. 39th Annual Decoy and Wildlife Arts Festival is approved by council, 6-0 in the affirmative. Thank you, council. Item number 2, Mr. Seipel.
Thank you,
I'm sorry? Council, any objection, or do you wish to roll through it?
No objection.
Go ahead, Mr. Fair.
I'd just like to thank you very much.
Sure.
I did want to say something about the other presentation. Wonderful. Being a project boy that I am, project girl, I'm very proud of her. Great job. Very good of you all to have her here tonight. Another plus for Havre.
Yes, sir.
Beautiful city in the world.
Amen.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Fair.
Thank you, Mr. Fair. Have a good evening, sir. Thank you. Thank you, council. Item 2, Mr. Seipel.
The second event for your consideration is Defenders Day Celebration Food Truck Music Festival. This event is sponsored by the City of Havre de Grace. This is a one-day event to be held on May 1st. The event will be at Concord Point Park. Setup will begin on Saturday, beginning at 1 p.m. The event begins at 2 and will end at 9, with cleanup beginning immediately thereafter. Traffic control will be provided and includes closing Lafayette Street from Young Street to Concord Street and Concord Street from Lafayette Street to Alliance. So just right around, like the dog leg around the lighthouse keeper's house, like we do so often when we're having events at Concord Point. The public restrooms will be available as well as additional porta potties. Also, the number of trash and recycling containers will be increased in anticipation of the number of attendees. The anticipated attendance is approximately 1,000 folks throughout the 7-hour event. Alcohol will be sold and served at this event. The Community Projects of Havre de Grace Independence Day will be responsible for the beer garden. They will apply to the Liquor Control Board for permitting and have assured the required perimeter control, staffing, and identification as required by the Liquor Control Board will be adhered to. The rain date is May 2nd with the same time frame. Also, at this event, doesn't really require much city service except the mooring. There will be fireworks at the end. The event will culminate in fireworks being shot off the barge. The public works expense for this is $483.75. Police expense is $9,153, and a COVID plan is under review by the Health Department.
Mr. Seipel, thank you very much. Council, I have a motion to approve Defenders Day celebration.
So moved.
Okay, I got Councilmember Robertson motion. I'll say Councilmember Ringstocker second it. I just flip a coin sometimes and roll with it. Questions or comments about the event, council? Councilmember Boyer.
I just have a quick question. The location of the band, are we going to be borrowing the Harford County band shell, or are we getting our own staging? I mean,
We were not planning to use the Harford County band show. We would probably use our own stage.
Do we have our own stage?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yes, this is not for public disclosure. I didn't really say that.
Okay.
You know, the one we had set up for Holly Jai First Friday?
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
we got a little stage. Okay. Any other questions or comments? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say nay. Defenders Day celebration, scheduled for May 1st, 2021, with a rain date of May 2nd, 2021, is approved by council, 6-0 in the affirmative. Thank you very much. Item number 3, Mr. Seipel.
Thank you, Mayor. The third event is the Pride of Baltimore 2 visit. This visit is sponsored by the Pride of Baltimore, Inc. It will have 8 years. It will have been 8 years since their last appearance in Havre de Grace, and that was during the War of 1812 commemoration. So we very much look forward to their return. This tall ship is in partnership with the National Park Service, Star Spangled Banner National Historic Trail, and the Lower Susquehanna Heritage Greenway. You may recall I read a letter into the record from Ms. Bridget Carty, Executive Director of LSHG. The Pride intends to be docked at Frank J. Hutchins Memorial Park. They would arrive on Friday afternoon of May 7th and depart on Monday morning, May 10th. Currently, no one would be permitted on board the vessel due to COVID restrictions. However, the crew of the Pride intend to have several onshore educational presentations as well as virtual programs providing insight into the legacy of Baltimore privateers and the tall ships, as well as their role in the War of 1812. The crew will also be interacting from the deck of the Pride with participants. They anticipate attendance of about 100 viewers per day. There is no rain date. They do request water and electric hookup for the Pride, which the city can provide. And the public works expense is $241.88. For police, there is no expense as they will provide security via routine patrols.
Thank you, Mr. Seipel. I have a motion to approve the Pride of Baltimore 2's visit to Havre de Grace.
So moved.
Councilmember Ring-Socker, seconded by Councilmember Zinner. Question or comments?
I got one.
Yes, sir, Council President.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. We get a lot of sediment down from Conowingo Dam, so my question is, have we validated that we have enough water to allow the subject ship to dock?
We're working through that now, both with the crew of the Pride as well as our own marina manager. So we have a pretty high level of confidence right now. It doesn't seem to be an area it silts in too significantly. We do know the draft and beam of the boat, so we're still finalizing that, but we feel it's going to be a go at this point.
Thanks. That's my only question.
Good. Thank you.
That's a very good question.
Well, on that,
Councilmember Robertson.
there's the moor outside of Concord Point Park. I mean, if worse comes to worse, could it moor out there, or is that a no-go because the idea is to have folks get on board?
It's way too shallow.
Oh, is that too shallow? Okay.
They would need water and electric for their boat to keep it, so there's no power, there's no utilities out at the mooring.
Any other questions or comments? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say nay. Pride of Baltimore 2, visiting Havre de Grace, May 7th, 9th, 2021 at Hutchins Park. Their arrival is approved by the legislative branch. Very good, excellent. Thank you, Council. Item 4, Mr. Seipel.
Thank you, Mayor. The next event is the Garden Mart at the Maritime Museum. This event is sponsored by the Havre de Grace Maritime Museum, Inc. This is a 2-day event beginning on Saturday, May 15th, and continuing on Sunday, May 16th. Both days, the start and stop times are 10 a.m. until 5 p.m. Setup would occur on Saturday at 8 a.m. Cleanup would take place immediately following the event on Sunday after 5. They anticipate it'd take about an hour to mop up when they're finished. They request that Lafayette Street be closed to vehicular traffic from the entrance to the maritime parking, which is further up Lafayette Street, not at Young's, but a little further up, where you enter into the museum parking area proper. So they would like to have Lafayette closed from that entranceway down to where the road makes the bend on the Concord Street. This would provide adequate public safety for the participants traveling to and from the Garden Mart. They anticipate 150 visitors. They may have 1 or 2 food trucks parked on their concrete pad and request that the public restrooms be adequately stocked and maintained, which they will be. Public Works expense is $376. Expense for PD is 0, as they again will provide security via routine patrols with their new tasers. Their COVID plan has been submitted and is under review.
Fair enough. Thank you very much, Mr. Seipel. Council, I have a motion to approve the Garden Mart.
Second.
I have a motion by Councilmember Robertson, seconded by Councilmember Ring-Socker. Questions or comments on the Garden Mart? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say nay. Garden Mart, scheduled for May 15th to 16th, 2021, is approved 6-0 in the affirmative. Item number 5, Mr. Seipel.
Thank you, Mayor. The 5th event for your consideration, you may have heard Miss Suzanne Chadwick speak to you about it. It's the Jazz and Blues Fest. This event is sponsored by the Havre de Grace Arts Collective. This is a multi-day event occurring in 2 locations, around the city. The dates for this are Friday, June 4th and Saturday, June 5th. The locations include a festival stage on Pennington Avenue between Washington Street and Lodge Lane, and a second location will be at Concord Point Park. At the Pennington Street location, they wish to erect a tent that will remain up for both Friday and Saturday. On Friday, during First Fridays, they plan to have two 45 to 50-minute jazz-free concerts, or free jazz concerts, I guess you would say. On Saturday, they would host 3 or more local artists, as well as ticketed sales for ticketed concerts, which could be held, I guess, at the State and/or Concord Point Park. They also request permission to sell beer and wine on Saturday only at the Pennington Street location. Yes, I'm sorry. This is regarding the Concord or the Pennington Street location. At Concord Point Park, it's the headliner stage. So on Friday at 8 p.m., they would have a concert, and then on Saturday there would be 3 ticketed concerts. On both days, the performances will end by 9:45, and that would be in keeping with our noise ordinance. They also plan to have a beverage / food garden where they can sell beer and wine and food on Friday and Saturday. In both locations where alcohol is to be sold and consumed, the sponsor will apply to the Liquor Control Board for permitting and have assured us that the required perimeter control, staffing, and identification as required by the Liquor Control Board will be adhered to. Restaurants and merchants will receive communication from the Havre de Grace Jazz and Blues Fest to encourage their participation and awareness. The city's tourism, PD, and other event staff are working closely with the Arts Collective to ensure coordination of street closings. In addition, the street closing at Pennington Avenue, the event sponsors are asking that Lafayette Street from Young Street to Concord Street, and Concord Street from Lafayette to Alliance Street, again, the dog leg around the lighthouse keeper's house, be closed to traffic again to provide for adequate public safety. There is no rain date. The anticipated attendance is around 1,200 people. Public Works expenses are $752, and the PD's is $3,051.
Excellent. Thank you very much, Mr. Seipold. Council will have a motion to approve the Havre de Grace Jazz and Blues Fest. Okay, I have a motion by Councilmember Robertson, second by Councilmember Martin. Questions or comments? Councilmember Robertson?
Well, I am really excited to see this on the agenda and that it's moving forward. You know, I was jazzed about the 2019 celebration, and I was blue about the 2020 cancellation. But no, in all seriousness, it was a great event 2 years ago. It put the city in a really good spotlight, and you know, us getting back to these events, it's good to see so many events on our docket. You know, it gives me hope that things are getting back to normal, and that you know, our city will soon see some more visitors and everything, and that's good. So I just want to thank the Arts Collective and specifically Suzanne for putting this together. I know it takes a lot of work and a lot of coordination, and you know, you use every bit of resource that you have, and you know, such an asset to the community to be able to do that and put this thing together. So thank you very much, and I look forward to it.
Thank you, Councilmember Robertson. Any other questions or comments? Councilmember Boyer?
I just want to say that we are blessed to have people from all walks of life who have all different kinds of interests and are willing to step up and put their neck out on the road. Suzanne, you've really done wonderful things, and I really, really appreciate you taking the lead on this and willing it to happen, and I look forward to supporting you on it. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Boyer. Further questions or comments? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say nay. Havre de Grace Blues Fest, scheduled for June 4th to 5th, 2021, is approved by this council 6-0 in the affirmative. Thank you very much, council. Looking forward to it. It's going to be awesome. Item number 6, Mr. Seipold.
Thank you, Mayor. The final event for your consideration is the National Diabetes Initiative Community Health Walk. This event is sponsored by the Al Nas Temple 255. they have assimilated with the Jesse Shanks Prince Hall Lodge. They are the local Prince Hall Shriner Masonic organization that supports the community through volunteer work, donations, and other social action activities. This event would occur on Saturday, June 5th from 8 a.m. until 11:30 a.m., beginning at the Millard E. Tidings Memorial Park. They wish to set up a table or two to register attendees at the park beginning at 7 a.m. The walk would begin at 8 and end at 11:30 back at the park. There is a rain date of June 12th for this event. The organizers have requested permission to place arrow signs to show the direction of travel, as well as statements reminding participants to walk on the sidewalks and within the crosswalks. So as mentioned, this is a walk, and the course would originate from the park, proceed down Commerce Street onto Market Street, then on the Congress Avenue, making a left on the Union Avenue, returning to Tidings Park, completing the loop. The public works expenses for this are $83.50, and the police is $0. The anticipated attendance is 50.
Council, to have a motion to approve the National Diabetes Initiative.
So moved.
Second.
Council President, seconded by Councilmember Boyer. Questions or comments? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say nay. National Diabetes Initiative Community Health Initiative Walk scheduled for June the 5th, 2021 at Tidings Memorial Park is approved by Council 6-0 in the affirmative. Thank you. Thank you very much, Mr. Seipold. That concludes all of our special events, correct?
Yes, sir.
All right, well done, sir. And thank you very much, Council, for your support. We're going to move on to item 16, Director's Reports. And, hey, Mr. Seipold, why don't you start off?
Oh, thanks, Mayor. First of all, thanks, Council, so much for approving the budget amendments as well as the social events. As you can see, Havre Grace is really jumping these days, and we couldn't do it without your support and indulgence. On Wednesday, March 17th, it's St. Patrick's Day. The Havre Grace Arts Collective invites you to get your Irish on as they present Paddy Green's Shamrock Shore, songs and stories from Ireland, past and present, featuring Feargal King at the Cultural Center of the Opera House. This is a mix of well-known Irish ballads, old and new, set in the context of the colorful history and stories that brought them into being. Showtime is at 8 p.m. To purchase tickets, please visit our website at hdgoperahouse.org. On Saturday, March 20th, the Havre Grace Arts Collective presents the Atomic Light Orchestra, ALO. This performance features six talented musicians doing the work of 13. ALO meticulously performs the music of ELO and the Traveling Wilburys. Let them transport you back in time with the melodies written by Jeff Lynne. This event has been moved to the State Theater of Havre Grace, located at 325 St. John Street, to accommodate the anticipated attendance and in keeping with proper COVID guidelines. Showtime is 8 p.m. For tickets, please visit either the State Theater or Opera House websites, and they are statetheaterofhdg.com or hdgoperahouse.org. On Sunday, March 21st, the Havre Grace Arts Collective presents a living history portrayal, Berta Freeman Welcome, Ride the Welcome Wagon, featuring Janice Curtis Green. Did you know that Berta Mae Freeman Welcome was the first African-American woman to be elected to the Maryland State Senate and the second in the nation? She was a teacher and civil rights leader. Ms. Welcome spent 25 years in the Maryland legislature and worked to pass legislation which enforced stricter employment regulations and discouraged racial discrimination. Witness her remarkable journey beginning on a truck farm in North Carolina during the Jim Crow era through the historic portrayal of her life by master storyteller Janice Curtis Green. On Monday, March 22nd at 7 p.m., join the friends at Concord Point Lighthouse as they sponsor a free virtual lecture on women lighthouse keepers by historian Mary Rassa. To reserve a spot for a lecture, call 410-939-3213 or email director@concordpointlighthouse.org. On Tuesday, March 23rd, beginning at 7 p.m., the Havre Grace Arts Collective invites you to join them for an informative and fascinating lecture by our own Dr. Amy Rosencrans, whom you heard tonight. She will be speaking of women in politics, then and now, lecture and panel discussion. Dr. Rosencrans will educate us on the history of the suffragist movement in Harford County. Following the lecture, Dr. Rosencrans will moderate a panel discussion with much distinguished women, like our elected officials, who will relay their personal experiences, such as Councilmember Casey Boyer and Councilmember Carolyn Zinner, as well as Maryland State Delegate Marianne Lasanti and Aberdeen City Council Member Sandra Lambeck. Don't hesitate to attend this event at the Havre Grace Opera House. On Thursday, March 25th, the Havre Grace Arts Collective presents Iron Jawed Angels, with an introduction by our own Havre Grace Police Chief, Teresa Walters. Iron Jawed Angels is a 2004 American historical drama film that focuses on the American women's suffrage movement during the 1910s, and kind of odd, and follows women's suffrage leaders Alice Paul and Lucy Burns as they use peaceful and effective nonviolent strategies, tactics, and dialogues to revolutionize the American feminist movement to grant women's right to vote. The film stars Hilary Swank as suffragist leader Alice Paul, Frances O'Connor as activist Lucy Burns, Julia Armand as Inez Mulholland, and Angelica Houston as Carrie Chapman, Chat. The film received critical acclaim after the film premiered at the 2004 Sundance Film Festival. Showtime is 7 p.m. at the Cultural Center at the Opera House, and the admission is free. On Saturday, I didn't have that one up there.
Oh, okay. It's not going anywhere.
On Saturday, March 27th, the public is invited to meet at the Cultural Center at the Opera House at 11:45 to march to the dedication celebration in Millard E. Tidings Memorial Park. The parade steps off promptly at noon from the Opera House and ends at the park, where the plaque will be unveiled, marking the spot where suffragists spoke during their march to Washington, D.C. Participants are encouraged to come and dressed as suffragists. Later that same day, March 27th, the Havre Grace July 4th Commission presents Bridgerton-inspired paint night at the Unlimited Art Studio located at 102 North Washington Street. Join your friends, do some painting while supporting the July 4th Commission. Early registration is encouraged, as is also BYOB. Please email hdgsjuly4th@gmail.com and reserve your easel. On Saturday, April 3rd, the Havre Grace Recreation Committee will hold its annual Easter egg hunt at the Concord Point Lighthouse in Havre Grace. Come out and participate or watch the fastest egg hunt this side of the Mississippi. The hunt starts at noon and lasts until every egg has been retrieved or until my heart takes a second beat, whichever comes first. Several thousand eggs will be distributed among 4 different age zones. Special prizes will be awarded to finders of certain eggs. A socially distant bunny will be available for photos. Mask must be worn by all attendees 7 and up. Oh, forgot that one. There you go. There's your Easter eggs. I'm giving you a sneak preview. This is where they're located. Mark it down. Also, on Saturday, April 3rd, it's opening day for both the Stepping Stone Museum and the Susquehanna Lock House Museum. Both will open their doors from 1 p.m. until 5. Spring is on its way, folks. And as mentioned earlier, Wednesday is St. Patrick's Day, and I would be remiss if I didn't offer you this Irish blessing. As you slide down a banister of life, may the splinters never point in the wrong direction. And lastly, something that always brings me a lot of joy this time of year, and you'll have to wait for it. Can you hear that? On Saturday, March 20th at 5:37 a.m., the spring equinox occurs in the northern hemisphere. It's the astrological time when the sun shines directly on the equator and the length of day and night is nearly equal. So I want to leave that with you because with all the stuff going on, always take a moment, listen to the peepers, and be grateful spring is on its way. Stay connected with us via the internet. Please visit our websites often for the latest information concerning the COVID-19 and for a complete updated calendar of events for our city and participating venues. Please visit our websites at explorehavregrace.com, hdgoperahouse.org, and of course, havregracemd.gov. And that will conclude the remarks from this section of the room. Mayor, thank you.
Thank you very much for the update, Mr. Seipolt. Appreciate it. I'd like to call forward our Director of Planning next, Mr. Shane Grimm. Good evening, Mr. Grimm. It's always a pleasure to see you, sir.
Good evening, Mayor, Council. Thanks for having me this evening. Just wanted to let you know that the Planning Commission will be meeting on Monday, the 22nd, to review the plan for Parcel K, which is for 49 townhomes at Bully Rock. That project was originally planned to be condominiums, a number of condominiums, so it's significantly lower in density. And I imagine the product will be similar to what is across the street on Touch of Gold. So the public is welcome to come out to the council chambers that evening. I do not anticipate a large crowd, but if we do have a number of people that overwhelms the council, they may have to wait outside until called in for comments. So just want to be clear that we are going back to in-person, and I know our folks on the commission and myself are happy to be doing that, and we plan to do that in a socially distant and away and make sure that we meet all protocols. So you'll be asked to have your temperature taken and things like that. So everybody, we would ask that they be respectful when they come in. If they're not feeling well, don't come in. You can always give me a call and answer your questions about the project. And I have done that. There's been a couple questions about the project, but certainly not to the level that we've received for Parcel F. I will say that in the coming weeks and months, we do anticipate receiving a number of plans for the remainder of Bully Rock. So we'll be quite busy with Bully Rock plans coming forward, and that's good news there. The only other thing I would like to let you know is just to remind everybody that with Mr. Seipolt's recording of the spring peepers, that also alerts us to grass that will be growing. So certainly I'm going to be preparing soon my own lawnmower for the spring mowing season, and I do believe that it will be coming earlier this year. My grass is already starting to get, well, I think most of my grass is weeds, but it is green, so that's good enough. But so I just want to remind everybody that in the city of Havre de Grace, we do have the property maintenance code. So everybody should be aware that they need to keep their grass mowed. And of course, spring is a good time to get out there and make any fixes to your property and just tidy it up. And I just want to thank our code enforcement officer, Earl Swigert. He's out there every day trying to make sure that the city looks good, and I believe it does. Wintertime kind of always exposes everything, and I can't say enough about the good work that he's done, and our citizens as well, to really up their game and make sure that things are looking good. But there's always room for progress, and I hope that our citizens take that into consideration in the spring. I'm not sure if Mr. Whitty has any plans for any of those dumpster days, but certainly I'm sure he'll bring that forward. So if there's anybody out there that has some bulk items that they need to have thrown away, that would be great. And hopefully won't have to tell anybody anymore about shoveling out their inlets so the snow doesn't block them. I'll be happy when that's done. So spring is a very welcome thing around here, and it's certainly welcome to me. I've got spring fever big time, but thank you all for your support of what the Department of Planning is doing, and I'll talk to you again soon.
Mr. Grimm, thank you very much for the update. We appreciate it.
Thank you, sir.
Have a good evening, sir.
You too.
I'd like to call forward Ms. Erica Quisenberry-Sturgill, our Director of Economic Development for City of Havre de Grace. Good evening. Welcome.
Good evening. I want to thank you for the showing you did for the suffrage marker. That was wonderful. And Dr. Rosencrantz, she's been a joy to work with, and it was just greatly appreciated. So I want to bring up two topics tonight. I know we're going a little late, but one I think is incredibly important for the public to hear and for each member of council and mayor. The state of Maryland is currently conducting a speed survey so that legislators and decision makers can get a better handle on what everyday Marylanders are faced with regarding high-speed internet. The state launched the Speed Survey website, and residents are now encouraged to visit it at maryland.speedsurvey.org. And what you need to do, especially if you're watching at home, is log into that site and allow your computer to communicate with the state on what your connectivity is at your home, at your place of business, through your mobile device, so that there's a better understanding of what the service is here in Havre, so that we can get in queue for broadband connectivity and higher speed. This is a first step, it's an initial step, it's a baby step, but it's a critical step for our city. It's something I hear about from a lot of our businesses and a lot of our residents, and I know all of you do too. So it's one step that gets us some positivity to making some changes. According to Kenrick Gordon tonight, he's the director of the Governor's Office of Rural Broadband. The data obtained from the survey will help the department understand Maryland needs, as well as verify to the Federal Communications Commission the data on planning efforts to drive federal dollars for state connectivity and high-speed internet in underserved communities. And then lastly, just very quickly, the American Rescue Plan Act was signed into law on March 11. There's a number of details with that, but one of the things that is particularly interesting for some of our businesses will be the Shuttered Venue Operators Grant Program. That is a particular grant program for businesses that weren't able to open with public showings of movies, concerts, things such as that effect. We don't have all of the guidelines on it yet, but this is another one that'll be administered through the Small Business Administration as well as the SBDC. I'm attending numerous webinars every day on each one of these programs and all their various acronyms so that we can have as much up-to-date information and the hyperlinks to each of these programs as soon as they become available, so we can help people get ready for them and to download that information and get started on the application process.
Excellent. Any questions for Ms. Wisberry?
Yes, ma'am.
Councilmember
Do you
Boyd.
plan to use the city website or Facebook site, social media to promote the
Yes, I talked
presentation?
to Adam with it, but we wanted to bring it to council first and then launch it tomorrow.
Thank you.
Certainly.
Thank you, Erica. Have a great evening.
Thank you.
I'd like to call forward Mr. George Ahorty, our Director of Finance. Good evening, sir.
First of all, I'd like to thank the council, echo the sentiments of Patrick in approving the budget amendments, allowing us to go forward from very important work, and I do appreciate it. The current financial condition. The general fund has now grown to just over $5.8 million, which is a little over $2.15 million ahead of where we thought we would be. We started the year $1.25 million ahead of schedule, over what we thought, and we've added $880,000 worth of savings in salaries and benefits and health care. Income tax receipts have started to rebound. We're now projecting we're running about $200,000 behind where we'd hoped to be, which was a healthy increase from last year. We're within $5,000 of where we were a year ago at the same time, but we thought we'd have growth. That obviously the pandemic has not allowed to happen. Our real property tax billings are $120,000 over what we estimated they would be. And the highway user fee, again, continues to be about $60,000 less than what we budgeted based on estimates from State Highway. The water sewer fund has grown to just over $700,000, which is just shy of $400,000 increase for the year. Our operating profit was $2 million. To that, we added another $2.05 million in capital fees, and in capital projects and debt service payments, we've paid just over $3.65 million to come up with the growth for the year. The marina has grown by just almost $270,000 to just under $1.1 million for the year, and that's running about $50,000 ahead of where we were a year ago at this time. And It's a little combination of better than anticipated ramp fees and slip fees, and part of it is timing due to purchases of gasoline and sales of gasoline. But we're in a very strong position as we start up the boating season. So that is my financial report at the current moment, and I will open the floor for any questions.
Thank you, George. Any questions for Mr. Doherty?
Thank you.
George, thank you. Have a great evening. Thanks for the report, sir.
Thank you, guys.
I'd like to call forward Mr. Tim Whitty, the Director of Public Works. Good evening, sir.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Just a few things. I know one of the big things we've noticed is the Baltimore Gas and Electric Company. The contractor's now working on repairing the streets and putting down the final course of asphalt. Basically, what they're doing right now is they're going to they're filling in they're taking out all the old coal patch that they had as a temporary fill for the trenches, putting in new base course asphalt. And then once they've completed all those sections through the city, they're going to go ahead and start with the mill. They're going to mill the whole lane off 2 inches and then put down 2 inches of asphalt. As I said before, we've worked out the deal with the contractor where they're going to do half and we'll do half. A lot of the work that they did this year, they crossed the street for the full length, and in those cases, they're paving both sides of the road. You've also noticed too is they're doing a lot of curb work. As I said, it's been really nice working with BG&E, and they've allowed us to be able to do some other things with replacing curb and sidewalk along areas that have deteriorated. So while we're fixing the pavement, we're also doing the curb. We're also starting the alleyway, the alley that has no name behind 626, 625 Fountain Street. It's between Fountain Street and then the Evonics property. And it's an old stone. It's really in bad shape. And so we're going to go ahead and regrade it, take out the stone, and I guess we just like took things down there. We put whatever different size stone we put in there, and if we had like leftover asphalt, we put it in there. So we're taking that all out, regrading it, improving the drainage in that area, and then we're just going to pave it. The Aberdeen water line project, we had that proposals were turned in on the 5th of March, and I'll be awarding that contract tomorrow. That'll be an award of the contract. The notice to proceed, I'm actually going through I can receive 3 bids for geotech work that we're getting. And once I review those and award that contract, then I'll issue a notice to proceed to the contractor to start the work. The RFP for the 2 sewer projects is going to go out this week. I've got the final drawings, going through everything, got the proposed RFP advertisements, all the documents are ready to go. So we're going to advertise those. That project is on Francis Street, behind the homes, and also on Commerce Street. And so while we're doing that, we're also going to meet with the residents, kind of get their concerns, just to let them know what's going on. And then once the contract's been awarded, I'm going to award the deals. I'm going to put the option for a contractor to bid on both projects, but also it'll give me the opportunity if one comes in lower and one on the other, I may use 2 separate contractors. But I think we'll get definitely a better price by lumping the contracts together. And then once we do that, we'll have another meeting with the residents, especially on Francis Street, to organize access to the rear. I've got to go through somebody's backyard to get to the sewer line back there. So we'll be working that out with the residents. The 2 water line projects, or the 3 water line projects, the Old Bay Lane project, Green, and then Wilson Street project, I'll be putting those out for an RFP next week. That's good. The Marina project is, the engineering's completed. We're going in for permits for an MDE permit. It's taken a little bit longer than I thought. I don't know whether or not we're going to be able to get this in, project tank replaced, and then when it hits at boating season. So we may push this project back. I'll get the permits, get everything lined up, get it ready to tee off, and then we'll do it in September, maybe October timeframe. And then, as you noticed, the bathroom decks got replaced at Hutchings Park, which was needed. And then finally, if you look at the Burns property, the porch there is it's torn down, and they're working on rebuilding the porch there. They're gonna finish the side porches and then move to the front and do the front porch. The front porch is actually detached from the house, so we're gonna have to do a little bit of structural work to get that, you know, it's independent of the house. It needs to be sort of attached to the house, obviously, so we'll be working a little on that. And then finally, with Girard Street, I'm still working through the CBG money. I've got comments I need to address from the environmental section. Once I get those things, we should get that process finished, and that should be a short amount of time before I start release, to correct the drainage issue behind those properties that flood between Revolution Street and Girard in the backyard. So, does anybody have any questions?
Very thorough report, Mr. Woody. Any questions, Mr. Woody? Well, I know the citizens will be glad to hear about the paving.
Yeah, and I know it was particularly rough with the cold patch, and then of course it settled in, so it was just kind of a rumpy, a rough ride for a lot of folks for a long time.
Sure,
but
yeah.
in the end of the day, I think this, like I say, we have a very good working relationship with Baltimore Gas Electric Company, and while it's a little, I guess torturous a little bit to drive around the city for a while, it ends up becoming a pretty good deal for everybody.
Yeah, there's going to be a lot of new asphalt being laid down.
There will be.
That's good. Well, Mr. Woody, thank you so much
All
for
right.
everything.
All right,
betcha.
thank you.
I'd like to call forward Chief Teresa Walter, the Chief of Police. Good evening, Chief. It's great to see you.
Good evening, Mayor. Thank you. I appreciate that. And thank you, council members, for approving the budget transfer. I do appreciate that. It's definitely needed. I just wanted to say, I know that I have brought this, actually two things up recently, but I want to just, again, reiterate what I've said over the last couple of months about scams and identity theft, especially this time of the year. And with everything going on with COVID and unemployment checks going out, we are starting to see nationally more and more people stealing other people's identity and filing for the unemployment under somebody else's name. So please pay attention to that. The other thing is, and I've mentioned this before, if someone files a federal tax return you're using your information, definitely pay attention to that. And I'm going to give you some more information on where to contact people about that. And then also small businesses. Again, we've seen instances where people have claimed the economic stimulus payment checks for the COVID-19, and they've been using the businesses' information to try to get those stimulus checks. But the Federal Trade Commission, of course, they have several links or several sites that you can go on to report this and hopefully recover some of anything as far as money. And one of them is www.identitytheft.gov. That's www.identitytheft.gov. The other one is ID Theft Records at SBA.gov. That's Identity Theft Records at SBA.gov. And SBA stands for Small Business Administration. And then the third one I have is Disaster Customer Service at SBA.gov. That's Disaster Customer Service at SBA.gov. And the reason why I said that is actually I was speaking with one of my colleagues today, and she said that her husband got a call from one of the local banks and said, hey, we've got some transactions going on an old account of yours, and he hasn't used that account in over 3 years. So again, someone was trying to use his information to get, actually I believe it was an unemployment check. So again, please pay attention if in fact any of this happens to occur to you or to someone that you know. If you go on those sites, it actually will give you the different forms that you need, and they'll walk you through the process. So that's for the reporting, so that's very, very important. The other thing I know I've talked a lot about recently is thefts from automobiles. Again, I want to reiterate that the weather's starting to get warmer. People are now starting to leave their windows down a little bit or not lock their vehicles. Please, again, I can't reiterate it enough. I need you to go ahead and make sure that you secure your vehicles, make sure it's locked up, but also just remove anything of value that you have that are visible. It's you don't want people to see this stuff and break into your vehicle if you have locked your vehicle. So again, remove any kind of tablets or sporting equipment, purses, anything like that, at least keep it out of view if at all possible. And I'm also talking about not just your personal vehicle, but if you have a company car or truck, please make sure that you also do that as well. Unfortunately, we had a vehicle that was broken into recently, and a substantial amount of tools was stolen out of it. So again, I just want to reiterate, please pay attention to this. Finally, last but not least, St. Patrick's Day is this week, and I know some people have celebrated St. Patrick's Day this past Saturday. They might celebrate it during the middle of the week, and they might celebrate it also at the end of this week. I'm telling you this because, again, if you plan to celebrate the entire week, or if it's just one of those days, make sure that you do have a designated driver, or you've made arrangements with Uber or some other way to drive home. We don't want anybody to have an accident. We don't want anybody getting hurt. We don't want you accidentally hurting anybody else. So please, if you plan to celebrate St. Patrick's Day, do it wisely, do it responsibly, and have somebody at least give you a ride, or drop you off, coming or going, however it may be. And that should be it, Mayor.
Thanks for the reminder, Chief.
No problem. I know I'm a killjoy, but that's my job.
Well, we call it St. Patrick's Day Amateur Night, so
There you go, there you go.
people don't really don't drink anyway or drive, so hopefully. Thank you, Chief. Okay. I'm going to be brief this evening because I spoke very much last time. So I was a little long-winded at the last council meeting. I was on a roll there talking about Annapolis. But anyway, so I just want to mention a couple things. The Ice Festival, which took place this past weekend, sponsored by the Havre Grace Alliance, I felt was a very successful event. I know a lot of people were able to attend. We knew people would be there. Well, first of all, let me back up. It should have been like maybe January, but because of COVID, we had to bump it up to March. So we had a feeling people would show up, but we were blown away by the attendance. I saw people I knew, friends of mine from all over the county, all over Cecil County. I saw a lot of people from Pennsylvania license plates. One, you can say, hey, it's Havre Grace. Who doesn't want to be here? Two, I think the bigger picture is, I think after a year, I think people want to get outside and get some fresh air. Now, there was a mask mandate at the Ice Festival because when this event was approved several months ago, the Harford County Health Department had to have a COVID action plan, which involved the mask mandate. I think at least more than 90% of people wear masks. I think people were very respectful. I think people didn't want to mess up a good thing where there's no more events. So people wore masks, and they were just happy to walk, to see people, to talk to people. So that was a good barometer as to the city moving forward with things like First Fridays, which will be May 7th will be our first Friday. It'll continue through October. Defenders Day weekend, and as you can see, we had 6 events on the agenda this weekend. That's the first time we've had that in a long time, a very long time. So we're slowly emerging from the state of COVID that we've been in for the last year. I mean, of course, we're not out of it yet by any stretch of imagination. But there's light at the end of the tunnel. And I feel personally, it's safe to say, there's 4 kinds of people right now in society. I believe there's people who have had COVID. There are people who are currently being vaccinated. There are people who are willing to put a mask on and take the risk as long as they self-distance themselves and be careful. And the fourth people, and there's people that would rather stay home and be careful. But I think the most people right now in society are willing to go outside. So this past weekend was a very good barometer for the city, at least, to see what people's tolerances are for being outside to have an event. And, if you follow the news, every day that goes by is more people being vaccinated. And so the progress is being made. So I just want everyone to know that the city and the city council monitors the COVID numbers very carefully. We also, we respond to public feedback as well. So I want to get back to the Ice Festival and just say thank you to Bambi Johnson and the members of the Havre Grace Alliance and their board for putting together a very well-planned and organized event. It was an it was an ice festival in March, so if you got there Saturday, you got to see some great-looking ice. And if you got there Sunday, you saw the remnants of what was great-looking ice. The city sponsored a sculpture of King Kong climbing the lighthouse, which was like a 5-foot-tall, 6-foot-tall ice sculpture. It was pretty cool because the whole theme was supposed to be like fairy tales and stuff like that. Speaking of fairy tales, myself and Chief Walter and Stephanie Gullenbeck of McGregor's and Steve Clendenin, who owns the radio station 107.5, had the privilege and honor of being a judge of the Princess Parade. So that was very difficult. We had 49 princesses parade across the stage at the State Theater, and we could only pick one. So next year I'm up to tell them we need to break it into different categories. Like 1-year-olds, 1.5-year-olds, 2-year-olds, 2.5-year-olds, because that was tough. But anyway, it was just wonderful. So hats off to everybody. Great event. And speaking of events, I want to go back to an event the council approved earlier this evening called the Defenders Day. In case people are wondering, what is this? Is this the city just looking for a reason to party? Is this just something to do? Well, the story goes back 3 years ago. I think it might have been 3 years ago. The city council approved a resolution that has been long proffered by the Historic Preservation Commission that the city recognize and identify and recognize the first weekend in May as a city holiday. Why? Because on May 3rd, 1813, that is the anniversary of when the British Navy invaded our city. It was a one-day event, but we all know the story, and John O'Neill and stuff like that. John O'Neill defending the city as long as he could before he got captured. So we did. So with advice of the Historic Preservation Commission, the City Council approved that the first weekend in May is basically a city holiday. I know probably a lot of people forgot it or maybe didn't know it, but now you know it. The only problem is we immediately wanted to celebrate that first weekend 2 years ago by having the same thing. We wanted a food truck festival. We wanted performances. We wanted like some small play performances. We wanted bands. We wanted fireworks to celebrate our our city's history. But it rained out. It rained out that whole weekend, and the whole thing was canceled. Then last year, we had COVID. So in case you're wondering what this Defenders Day weekend is, this is really the first time we've had a chance to do what we envisioned, which is for the city to have an annual celebration every year, first weekend of May. I mean, it's almost like a cabin fever thing. It's like the first weekend, everybody gets out, celebrates being a Havre Gracian, our history, and that's what the story behind that is. So if you're ever, we all know what First Fridays are, which that's going to be May 7th, but that's Defenders Day weekend. And so again, it's going to be lots of food trucks. It's going to be lots of music. There's going to be a beer garden there, and the beer garden proceeds will benefit the Havre de Grace Independence Day Commission, which, as we all know, they have to come up with money every year to pay for the festivities for the 4th of July parade. So it's a good cause. If you want to go get an ice cold refreshment, you're supporting a great cause. And please, there's fireworks, going to take place at the end of it. So, and of course, Mr. Whitty mentioned paving's happening, which is really good. And I tell you what, I'm going to stop there because I said I wouldn't talk too much tonight. So, listen, I want to thank council very much for all the legislative action you did tonight with the resolution, with the license agreement, the budget amendments, all the events. So slowly and surely you can feel the city's about to come out of this pandemic. We're still very cautious. We're still very careful. Everyone, please remember, we wear the mask every day because we have to keep in mind almost 4 out of 5 people aren't vaccinated yet. So we just do that, because we care about one another, people in our community and people in our family. So, all right. So thank you very much. And we're going to go to business from the council. We're going to start off Councilmember Boyer.
Thank you. I just want to jump on and say kudos to the Alliance. That was a fabulous event. It was wonderful to see everybody in town. It was great weather. It was great to see all the kids dressed up in saw everything from princesses to dragons. And there's some pretty amazing dragons I saw too. Let me see. I want to thank Dr. Rosencrantz for coming and doing the presentation, and I also want to thank her for her passion for history and for sleuthing and finding the most interesting things about our city. It's people like that that just add to the character and value of our community. And finally, most exciting news I have is that the Street and Traffic Safety Commission or Committee will have a meeting online on the 22nd of March at 7 p.m. That's it. Stay safe. Take care.
Thank you very much, Councilmember Boyer, for your comments. We're going to go to Councilmember Zinner. Good evening, Councilmember Zinner.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, Council, and citizens. I too would like to thank Bambi and the Alliance for their hard work. I saw Bambi running around from about 9:30 in the morning, trying to get signs out, find the individuals that were uncovering the ice sculptures around 3 o'clock. So she really had her work cut out for her, as did other volunteers. Also wanted to mention, Mr. Whitty talked about the Burns House, and I've seen pictures already from the Historic Preservation Commission on the work that's being done on the porches. They're quite pleased with that. And also want to thank Dr. Rosencrantz as well, and I'm looking forward to joining Councilmember Boyer at the Opera House on Tuesday evening. The next thing I want to talk to is a little bit more of a serious matter, and that's the AR-15 gun rifle that will be held on March 26th. And my intention is not to bring criticism to any person or organization, but to shine a light on those in our community who have expressed concern about this decision, along with the message it sends, and to give voice to those concerns. At our last council meeting, your council, as I'm speaking to the citizens, your council members took steps to enhance public safety in the city, in our city. During the meeting, we agreed by a vote of 6-0 to fund a budget request to purchase life-saving equipment for our water rescue craft. At the end of the meeting, we asked citizens to write to our delegation to vote no on House Bill 496, Senate Bill 245, as it relates to the potential elimination of SROs in our schools, while supporting inclusion of behavioral health professionals in tandem with SROs. I personally see these two recent initiatives as a value add for our city, and while our SROs are members of our police force and entirely funded by the city, our fire stations are manned by 100% volunteer force and count on mandated county and city funds, along with the occasional budget requests and subsequent amendments for their survival. COVID-19 and the accompanying restrictions have impacted everyone, and some more than others, but regardless of the extent, the impact is undeniable. As a result, the host company, in an effort to expand their fundraising efforts, determined that the raffling of 2 AR-15s along with ammunition to interested parties will meet their needs. I have no doubt that every law has been followed, every I has been dotted, and T crossed to bring this raffle to fruition. But I'm saddened, as are others in the community, that this was deemed the best option. The host company has a compelling story to tell with their stellar response times, maintaining their ISO 2 rating, one of the highest in the state, as they continue to work towards the coveted ISO 1 rating. Their willingness to put their lives on the line to fight fires and rescue citizens goes beyond commendable. And that said, I have been giving this significant thought and would like to propose that the host company consider rethinking their current decision of not doing traditional fundraising in the coming year. I believe, given the right fundraising vehicle, while extolling all the positives this 100% volunteer fire company brings to the city, and making donors more aware of the operational costs attached to these efforts, higher donations would be forthcoming. I would also propose that if a gun raffle is truly the best and only answer, then do not select an instrument mostly associated as the weapon of choice in active shooter tragedies, but instead a high-end sports rifle or some other sports-related item to support the peace we all strive towards. Maryland has a tradition of heritage and hunting. Councilmember Ringsacker often speaks of his hunting trips as a boy with his father and how he wants to build that bond and skill with his son. If a gun raffle is truly the best and only answer, can we not tie it to our shared heritage and our hunting traditions to enhance our message of inclusion, gun safety, and hunting traditions? Our city is firing on all cylinders. Housing prices are rising, our children are heading back to school, our tax base is expanding, we are getting not only state recognition, but national as well. There are glowing reports regarding the livability of our city for residents of all ages. Give us a chance to step up to your needs without losing a shared treasure of tradition, as we are seemingly on a path to begin a new, less inclusive one. That concludes my remarks.
Thank you very much, Councilmember Zinner. Good evening, Councilmember Robertson.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, fellow council members, city staff, ladies and gentlemen here and at home. Wednesday, we have the Economic Development Advisory Board meeting at 4, and that's all I got. Oh, also, I do want to echo the comments about the Havre de Grace Alliance. Julie, Bambi, you guys, you've been knocking it out of the park since you've teamed up together, and you know, this is just, it was phenomenal. I got down there a little late because I had drill this weekend with the Army Reserves, but was able to see, you know, what looked like a very happening First Friday. And reading the article that the Sun did, every picture that they showed was of a family from somewhere else, some as far as Vienna, Virginia. So, you know, good job marketing the event. Good job, Havre de Grace residents, maintaining, you know, some semblance of safety. I saw most people wear masks, very few without them. You know, so thank you very much to the community. Thank you very much to the fine folks at the Alliance for getting that together. Oh, and for the businesses for sponsoring those ice sculptures. Those were awesome. They were really cool.
Thank you very much, Councilmember Robertson. Good evening, Councilmember Martin.
Good evening, Mayor, Council President, council members, and citizens. First, again, want to echo all the comments. One about all the events. The city is actually coming back to life. The Ice Festival was a success. As you said, there were more mask wearers than non, and people were excited to be out. It was a joy to see that. Talk about the American Legion. The American Legion Riders on March 27th are continuing the clothing drop-off at the American Legion Post, Joseph L. Davis, Post 47. So please, if you're doing your spring cleaning, usable clothing and dry goods can be brought to the American Legion Post from 10 to 2. There will be baked goods there for sale, soda, water, hot dogs. There is a food pantry there. We had some people show up and drop off food goods for the food pantry. So even if you just stop off and say, hey, here's a donation for the food pantry, it's greatly appreciated. And finally, to every veteran, son or daughter of a veteran, husband or wife of a veteran, you ride a motorcycle or you want to be involved in the community, the American Legion is looking for members. They're looking for people that want to come home to Havre de Grace. And the Legion Riders are looking for people that like to ride their motorcycles and want to represent the city of Havre de Grace and the Joseph L. Davis Post. With that, Mr. Mayor, I end my comments.
Thank you very much, Councilmember Martin. The distinguished gentleman from Bayview Estates.
Sir, by all means. Mr. Mayor, Council, that's my Bridgerton name. Right? First off, I also went to the Ice Festival this weekend. It was a great time. I'd like to congratulate Todd over at Easy Tobacco and Gifts and Bear Creek Designs for that beautiful, what do they call it? Mural piece of art, sculpture, that's it, metal sculpture there on the wall. It's representing Havre de Grace and cigar smoking downtown. I am a cigar guy. Mr. Grimm mentioned the Planning Commission. That's on the 22nd. Councilman Martin, you had to get the right Dave. Now, Martin mentioned motorcycles, and with the weather warming up, you're going to see the peepers, but you're also going to see a lot of motorcycles out there. So I do ask you, look twice, save a life. If we can get the deer in Havre Grace to do that, that'd be great. Those of you who don't know, a couple years ago, I hit a deer on 155 on my motorcycle. Totaled the bike, had a broken spine, broken leg, broken arm, and yesterday, with the wet, nice weather, somebody just a block from my house hit a deer, and he was going just about as fast, and I probably got 20 or 30 messages on my phone right away, people asking me if I was okay, and that it really meant a lot that people were concerned about me. I don't know if it felt good that they thought, lightning would strike twice. So now on a topic that I don't talk about a lot. I talk about hunting a lot. I don't talk about guns a lot. I'm not a pro-gun guy. I'm a pro-rights guy. And that's why, if I can just refute a little bit and put some stuff in perspective for the esteemed councilwoman, Ms. Zenner, AR-15s suffer from bad PR. That's the issue. Everybody says that they're only use it for killing and only used for for school shootings and everything else. Well, the preferred weapon for school shootings actually is a handgun, far and away, over 90%. When it comes to hunting with an AR-15, Maryland changed their law for Harford County this year, where you could shoot with what's called a straight wall cartridge. Because it used to be in Harford County you could only shoot deer with a shotgun. So with straight wall cartridge, I built an AR-15 this year with the straight wall cartridge, and my son and I took several deer, all legally, on property that we lease. I donated some, kept some, and we used every part of it, but we took every one of those with an AR-15 this year. It is a sporting rifle, and is actually classified, it's considered to be the most popular sporting rifle in the country for the past 10 years now, when it surpassed the Ruger 1022 rifle. The AR does not stand for assault rifle. It stands for Armalite rifle because Eugene Stoner, who invented it, he was working for Armalite at the time. Just pull the trigger once, gun goes bang once. It doesn't keep on going, full auto like you see on TV. It's a semi-automatic rifle. And, it's not a military-style rifle. It's not a military rifle. There is no military in the world that uses an AR-15. None. There is no military in this world that uses an AR-15. It is not a military-style rifle. The only difference is it's black and it doesn't have wood. It's no different than my other firearms, except for the one that they're raffling shoots a very small cartridge that isn't even big enough to be considered legal to hunt deer in Maryland in rifle counties like Cecil County or out in western Maryland. Now, when they passed SB 281 back in 2013, the state did, when they came out with some pretty restrictive requirements for firearms, what they're raffling still falls within these very restrictive requirements for firearms. The last time I checked was right about 2013 when this was going through, and there's a big push to save AR-15s and what's considered the American sporting rifle. At that time, the last time that a long gun was used in an interaction with the police by a perpetrator was a shotgun in 1976. These aren't guns that are used in this vast, epidemic of gun crimes. This is a sporting rifle that they choose to use for fundraising purposes. Like I said, I don't consider myself a gun guy. I consider myself a pro-rights guy. And with a very small L libertarian mindset, it's their right to do this. I support them to try to earn money any way that they see fit, and I support that. If I were on the board, I probably wouldn't have done that because I agree the optics can be damaging. However, I fully support their right to have a legal raffle, to raffle what they want to, a firearm that I would have pleasure in owning myself if I were to win. And I wish them the best of luck. If anybody wants to talk about this, and if anybody wants to go to the range with me, I'll take you. It's not a dangerous, scary thing. This is well controlled. People have their backgrounds checked. Like she said, every I's dotted, every T's crossed. These guns are actually pretty restrictive in what they can do and what they have under the 2013 SB 281 law. So with that, Mr. Mayor, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you very much, Councilmember Ringsacker. We're going to go to comments from the Council President. Good evening, Council President Glenn.
Thank you, Mayor and fellow members of the City Council. I got up this morning and I sent an email out to each member of the Havre Grace Alliance, thanking them for an awesome event. I mean, to Bambi, to Julie, to the entire Alliance, your tireless dedication truly paid off. I mean, it gets better and better every year, and I can't wait to next year. So again, to the entire Alliance, thanks for all you do. We talked about an Easter egg hunt and that you got to get there early because if you don't, it's over before you know it. Well, the same thing holds to a Susquehanna Hose Company pit beef raffle. Pit beef sale, because we were going this week. I knew they were having it. I knew it was starting at 11. I had to drop my grandson off at wrestling practice, so I did that first. Got there by 20 after 11, and the one thing my wife loves to get from the Susquehanna Hose Company is their pit turkey. Well, guess what? As soon as I got in line, he says, "No pit turkey, we're all out." So I knew I was in trouble. So if you're going to a Susquehanna Hose Company pit beef sale, whether it's pit beef, pit ham, and pit turkey, and there's one particular kind of meat you want, my advice is get there early. I want to personally thank Officer Dan Petz for testifying on behalf of the City of Havre de Grace against House Bill 1089. And for those that don't know what House Bill 1089 is, it was a bill that proposes the elimination of our school resource officers in our schools. As a former SOO, he was truly the subject matter expert. He was the right guy for us to send. He did an excellent job describing how valuable they are to the school, how valuable they are to our kids. Instead of doing away with the SROs, they should instead establish them as a role model for not only this county, this state, and this nation. What they bring to the school system is unparalleled. It really, if you think about it, they really reflect our police officers in a much different light, a positive light. And these kids are really attracted to them. And the one message is, if you don't know the value of the SRO, just go to First Fridays and watch those kids flock to their school resource officers as soon as they see them. And that's a great thing to sell. And I know Bill had talked about this, that when we put them in every one of our schools, they said it was a knee-jerk reaction. And there was a member that within Harford County that said it was a knee-jerk reaction. And I invited that member to one of our summer camps that was put on by our SROs. And as soon as he was there and he saw what they did with our kids relative to the safety and what they taught those kids, he said, "Oh my God, Havre Grace, you got it right." So I want to thank Officer Petz. He did a great job. Hopefully our legislators in Annapolis do the right thing, because if they do away with SROs, it's an opportunity lost. Next, I have the distinct pleasure of serving on the board for the Harford Community Action Agency. We had a recent board meeting, and I got to say it's refreshing that during this pandemic to see all that HCAA does on a daily basis. They provide energy assistance with fuel bills. They provide assistance with water bills. They provide assistance with rental. They have a food pantry that they provide food for those that need it most. And now they're partnering with the Office on Aging to provide food to our seniors. And they're just doing a wonderful job. I mean, you got organizations like Wegmans stepped up and they donated $19,000 to support that effort. And just so their ongoing efforts to help individuals and families in this community serves as inspiration for all of us. I met with Stephen Snyder. He's an upcoming Eagle Scout. He has an Eagle Scout project. Stephen lives in Havre de Grace. He goes to John Carroll High School. You may run into Stephen at a farmer's market because they say he has a lemonade stand with his siblings down at the farmer's market. And he has chosen for his Eagle Scout project the Joe K Trail. And he's gonna basically, put up a really nice sign. He gave us pictures of it. He's gonna put in a comprehensive map to show people how to navigate the trail. And he's gonna do a lot of maintenance on the trail itself. And so we look forward to his project once it's completed, but more importantly, I look forward to the day when he's awarded Scouting's highest honor. So Stephen, thank you for all you do. Warrior Proud moments. Gavin Lloyd, I don't know if anybody knows Gavin, but he was one of the premier wrestlers for the high school wrestling team. And this year he would have been a senior. He is a senior, but he didn't get to wrestle his senior year. But the state of Maryland is holding a special wrestling tournament, wrestling championship this weekend in Ocean City for all the high school wrestlers. And Gavin's going to be competing. He's been working his butt off for the last 3 to 4 weeks, working out to get fit and trying to get ready for this event. And I wish him nothing but the best. I hope he brings home the top award because he truly, truly deserves it. If you know Gavin, what a great kid. And I wish him nothing but the best. And speaking of Warrior Proud moments, I found out today that our mayor last night was in the playoffs for hockey. And in fact, it was apparently a close game, and it was close to the end of the game where Mayor Bill Martin scored the tying goal. Sent his team into overtime, and they won. And on Tuesday night, if I'm not wrong, you guys were the championship.
Yeah, and I feel every bit of it.
So
getting too old, Council President. No more. More bedtime stories.
Bill, that's a great job. And last but not least, my deepest sympathies goes out to the families of Ruth Elliott. Ruth Elliott was the first elected mayor for the city of Aberdeen, and outstanding female, outstanding matriarch for the city of Aberdeen. And she's going to be sorely missed. So my deepest sympathies and my thoughts and prayers go out to her family. And Mr. Mayor, that's all I have.
Well said, Council President. Thank you very much. And I'll let you know how the championship game goes. Problem is with us old hockey players, we never know when to quit. So when the house starts smelling like Bengay, that's time. So.
Yeah. But the old man scored a tie goal.
Yeah, the old man came through for him. So, all right. It was actually funny because at the ice rink, there's a video camera called Live Barn. A lot of sports arenas have them. And I didn't even know my ice rink had this camera, but my wife has an account because my kids play at these soccer arenas. So she knew I was playing this game, and I had no idea I was being filmed. And my son came downstairs, and my wife said, "You want to see your dad play hockey?" And it was right when I scored the tying goal. So it was like, my kids don't think I can do anything. Like, there, it's filmed. There you go, you little punks. They don't even think I can set a mousetrap. All right. But I can I, Jimmy? All right. So thank you very much, Council President. Now we're going to get to item number 19 this evening is comments from citizens. And this is the part of the meeting, if you wish to speak on anything at city business related that wasn't on the agenda, please raise your hand and be recognized. Sir.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just want to take the opportunity.
You can come up to the microphone if you want. That way it can be heard on the camera. Sure. Good evening, sir. May we have your name and record for the name and address for the record?
Yes, sir. Al Pederoff, 937 Nina Avenue, Havre, Grace, Maryland.
Welcome.
Thank you. I just want to take the opportunity to say thank you to the City Council, and also an apology for interrupting earlier. I didn't mean to interrupt the proper procedure here, but it had to do with the Historic Preservation Commission person that was being approved, Miss Carol Namath, who I consider a very sweet and dear person. And the only thing I wanted to say was one time I was with her and she said, you know, the Hall of Famer Joe Namath changed the spelling of his name to N-A, M-A-T-H, so that people would say his name right. Joe Namath. And her name is Namath, but we all say Namath. So I just wanted to point it out because she's an awesome person and dear friend. She told me that story, so that was that. Other than that, I just want to say thank you. I really appreciated all the open dialogue, and I'm so excited to see all the exciting things happening in the city. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Pederoff. We're happy to have you here this evening. This is, we haven't had people here in a long time. So
I'm going to be back next month to give you a Cat Club update.
please do. We love the Cat Club. Cat Club's awesome. Thank you, sir. Anyone else in the audience wish to speak on any matter of city business? Sir. Good evening, sir. May we have your name and address for the record?
Greetings, everyone. James Miller, 320 Lewis Street, down on the Historic District area.
Welcome, Mr. Miller.
Normally, I don't get up and speak a lot, but it was brought to my attention tonight about the misrepresentation about this gun raffle. I'm a 45-year active member of the Susquehanna Hose Company. This raffle is being put on by one of the 5 divisions, and all the laws are being covered. It's going through a federal firearms license dealer. I don't own a gun. But if anybody is interested, the raffle will be pulled on the 23rd of March, and tickets are $10 a piece, and 6 for $50. So if you want to make a donation and you don't like the gun, maybe you can win it, and then you can destroy it like other people have done. So, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Miller. Anyone else in the audience wish to speak? Council, may I have a motion for adjournment?
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion by the council president, seconded by Councilmember Boyer. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say nay. Motion to adjourn the March 15th council meeting carries 6-0 in the affirmative. The time is now 9:43. Thank you very much, everybody. Thank you very much, council. Have a good evening, everyone. Be safe.